Vulcan Soapbox.
It's your show, Vulcan. Come on, man.
I'm here to stand on my soapbox and proclaim that to the world.
What's the deal, good people? We are live today. Basically, this you can consider this like a part 2 of the last conversation we had. We got a great panel here, very similar to the panel last week. So we're going to be covering the Cam Newton and David Banner interview, which is wasn't like a huge hit online. I think it had maybe 200, 300,000 views. I don't know about the clips, but the whole show. But when you read the comments, people really resonated with what David Banner said. And I think that some of this stuff is worth discussing, doing an expose on it, bouncing ideas off each other on. So all of us can be enriched, especially the audience out there. So I really want to cover that today. Even though it wasn't the biggest interview in the world, the impact on the culture, especially Black culture, I think is pretty significant. I think it's worth talking about. So first, I want to give everybody a chance to kind of introduce themselves. Go ahead, Wicked, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Wicked, just here to have a good conversation with you guys like always and, try to put out some good points and, see where I might be right or might be wrong. And hopefully we could all learn something.
Yes, sir. Uncle Tiger.
Yeah, just a random guy on the internet who wants to talk to people. That's it.
Cool. And then T Reason, I guess we'll go to you next because Dane's he's doing his thing.
What up, fellas? It looked like we back in full swing. I know we took a little break, but it looked like we back, ready to go. It's T Reason, ready to get it. Let's talk.
Yes, sir. Yours did freeze a little bit. I don't know if that was on my end or your end, but it did freeze for a little second.
It looks smooth for me.
Okay, yeah. And Dane, introduce yourself.
Man, look, I got my Aspercream here on my desk in case I need it after last week's podcast. Man, I was getting beat up and slung around, choked down, backhanded. Man, I felt like Tina Turner, man, on this on the podcast last week. But I'm happy to be here and ready to, get ready to rumble. My thumbnail I put on my stream said, Big Daddy bathes them in logic on the Vulcan Soapbox. So I'm ready to go, man.
That's right. All right, so we got everybody introduced. Obviously, I know I'm the Vulcan. I'm ready to have a good conversation right here. We're trying to get a little deeper than the average podcast gets. And we're going to have some fun with it as well. So, Enos, let's go ahead and get into the clip of the David Banner, Cam Newton interview. And we'll start from the top, y'all. I know we covered some of this stuff in the past, but we're going to start from the topic on this one. So, yeah, let's get to it, Enos.
My question is not necessarily on topic of rap and hip hop. It's more specific to you being and having roots of Jackson, Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Do you think Mississippi is slept on?
Yes, very much so. But more specifically, Mississippi.
Okay.
You can trace most contemporary music in America back to Mississippi.
Okay.
Most great music, the basis of it is pain. No one has suffered in North America the way that the African or the Moorish people have, right? And so the reason why our music resonates the way that it does is because the one thing that everybody in this room will have in common is pain through death. Because everybody's gonna die. Mm-hmm. A lot of times for me, and it's one of the reasons again why I am so proud of you, is
okay. So we brought up some points here that I think is worth getting into a little bit. And so we're gonna start off with, he says that nobody suffered more than African Americans in North America. So we're going to do this a little bit more organized than last time. So just first go around, say yay or nay, and then we'll get into our why afterwards. So Wicked, for you agree, disagree?
I would disagree.
Uncle Tiger, for you, agree, disagree?
Disagree.
T Reason, for you, agree, disagree?
Disagree.
And then Dane, how about for yourself? You agree, disagree?
Oh, I definitely disagree. I don't even know how you'd measure such a thing.
And then for me, I would say suffering-wise, I would say I agree. And then, okay, so started off with, T Reason, it's because it's 2-on-3, me and you versus them three on this. Split down the color line to some extent. You want to go ahead and make your positive case for why you would say so?
Well, I don't fully understand the whole question. Are we saying that we agree with what David Banner is saying or disagree with what he's saying?
David Banner says that no one has suffered in North America more than African Americans.
Yeah, so I do agree with him on a lot of what he's saying, but obviously we did make the case for Native Americans. So it's it's kind of a toss up between the two, but a lot of the persecution that African Americans have faced, I mean, it's all well documented. We know certain things that were happening specific to blacks, very unique to blacks, and that would be the reason why I can agree as far as like understanding the pain and the struggle and different things like that.
Okay, so you would say that African Americans kind of tip the scale a little bit more than Native Americans on the suffering part?
Certainly.
Okay. Wicked, what about for yourself? In just like a minute or less. All right, oh, there we go.
Fighting with the mute button. There it is.
I was on mute. That's why I was trying to go unmute. I said that I disagree because, like we said last time with the Native Americans, I feel like even till this day, they still have less ability to do things. A lot of the tribes, they're very limited on the supplies that they get. They're very limited on what they can do, laws that they can have. They don't even own their own land. So I still, even to this day, I think they still have a little bit more problems, not to negate what happened with Black people, because I mean, it's so close into things. But I believe when you try to take out a whole entire community, enslaving them is just as bad. It's like, how do you compare the two? But I just feel it's edged out a tiny bit more on the Native American side.
Got you. Okay, Uncle Tiger, how about for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's indisputable that, I mean, not diminishing the suffering of the the Black people, but I think it's indisputable that the Native Americans suffered way worse. I mean, you can right now Google what is the U.S. population by race, and it'll come up whites this percent, blacks this percent, Asians this percent, blah 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 this percent, but it doesn't say Native American this percent. It says other this percent, and it's like the lowest. They are very significantly diminished. I mean, they're basically extinct as a people, and it's a tragedy. So for them and or everybody. And I don't think that, while yes, Blacks have suffered a lot, I don't think they're diminished to the point of near extinction. So,
Mr. Dane.
Yeah, man. This is one of those type questions, just the format of it. I always wonder, what's the point of the question of this foot race of victimhood of, well, we suffered the most, or we suffered the most, and we suffered the most. Because naturally, whoever's the one that suffered, they're going to naturally think that they're the ones that suffered the most. They're going to be like, well, I'm the one that was worse off in a situation. So it really gets to be a subjective thing. Why I mentioned when we went around with the affirmative or the negative, I said, I'm not even sure how you would measure such a thing outside of a subjective system. But just looking at the historical accounts of it, the Native Americans, when they first encountered Europeans, something as small as a handshake contaminated the Native Americans with diseases that they had zero natural immunity for, because the Europeans, they lived, for instance, with their livestock in their homes with them. So there was a lot of animal diseases that jumped over into human beings. Native Americans didn't. So the Native Americans had zero resistance for any of it. Syphilis is one of the diseases that started off with animals. And so it quickly went through the Native Americans. When we talk about the conquest of the Native Americans, the actual military conquest and the ambushes on villages, killing men, women, and children, those sorts of things, it was actually very small. What defeated the Native Americans were, number one, disease, and then number two, the U.S. Army killing off their food supply. But so I mean, I just don't know how slavery was a horrible, vicious system. And whatever, no doubt. But I don't think that those are two, that's a dichotomy, that either, you think one was bad or you think the other's bad. I think that both were terrible. But I think when you look at the number of deaths, that sort of stuff, with the Native Americans over centuries, T. Reason said last week something that I hear a lot of people talk about when they talk about slavery. They say, we was in slavery 400 years. Nope. In the United States, slavery only existed like 78 years. But there's a lot of
Well,
misnomers and misinterpretations and stuff when it comes to those issues
let,
that people firmly believe.
let me go. That's a good point, Dan. Let me go and get in here real quick, just because everybody was a minute or less. I'm gonna try to keep mine short as well. But for me, I do agree with everybody saying it's there's a lot of subjectivity in it. Obviously, we all understand that. But I'm looking for the objectivity. I'm trying to see if there's a way to use some of the objectivity to get somewhat of a rubric. Just like if you go to the hospital and they ask you your pain, they have a rating for pain. Now, some of it's self-reporting, obviously. You know, I'm sure they can hook your brain up to a scan and somewhat tell the pain, but then that's also subjective to people's threshold. So there's going to be a lot of subjectivity, a lot of objectivity. And for me, I'm looking at the question with the nuance of the word suffer. Now, somebody said who had it worse. I might lean maybe more towards Native Americans, which I think is maybe the heart of the spirit of what people are saying when they're asking this question. But as far as suffering, I'm thinking about something a little bit different. I'm thinking about length of time of suffering. And the best analogy I can kind of give, and we kind of work it around and see if y'all agree or disagree. But, you know, if you have somebody, if you get buried alive, or if somebody just, you know, shoots you, you know, who's going to suffer more? Well, if you get buried alive, that's going to be days, maybe a week of suffering, you know, and then also, but if you get shot, you know, somewhere and you just kind of bleed out, that's what, a couple of hours, maybe a day, you know. And so I'm looking at the amount of suffering. Now, you can say intensity of the suffering and stuff like that, psychological and physical. We can get into the nuance of it to some extent, but I think when it comes to suffering, because of, I think anywhere between 50 million to 100 million Native Americans may have been on this continent at the time. Nobody knows exact numbers, obviously, but they were pretty much wiped out, mainly from the things that were mentioned, disease, the buffalo being wiped out, and things of that nature. And some of them went out in war, which they were fighting, and then, you know, they get shot, and that's a couple of hours, maybe a day or so, you know. But I think that when you look at the African Americans, you know, a lot of them died on the way over here. I'm not including like Arab slave trade and stuff like that and castration, but just the ones that were on their way to North America and the ones that were actually here. I think just the ongoing suffering from slavery itself and all the way into Jim Crow, I think just the length of time of actual suffering, pain, mental and physical, I think a good case can be made that it's worse than the Native Americans kind of being wiped out in a small period of time. You know, so I want to give it back to first, I want to give it to Wicked, Uncle Tiger, and Dane. Well, first, I guess T Reason. Is anybody that you want to cross-examine on the panel? Anybody points you want to cross-examine?
Obviously, Dane, man. Obviously, that's who I would like to cross-examine. I think he brought up some good points.
Okay.
One thing I want to start with, I mean, they both was real bad atrocities. So let's get that out the way first. They both were two real bad events that took place. But when you talk about suffering, you talk about duration of suffering, the duration of pain, it goes to the Black community by far. And I think he's heavily underestimating the length and time of slavery. 70 years is a heavily underestimated time frame. I think we should actually look at the exact time frames so we can see how long slavery was, desegregation, and different things like that, so that we can see how long it's actually lasted in America. And we can see the inequality there, because I think that's something that's.
This is you cross-examining Dane right now, or like you want to?
Yeah, I'm speaking to a lot of what he was talking about. He said 70 years. I think that's a heavily.
You didn't really want to cross-examine him. You just wanted to speak to what he was saying.
I want to speak to what he's saying, and then I want to prove that what he's saying is not true, because he said 70 years. So I want to show the actual time frame. I want to find out.
You're not requiring an interaction between you and him right now.
I mean, he obviously he's going to disagree with what I'm saying. Obviously,
you're not requiring any type of interaction, basically. I just want to make sure, because the cross-examining is a specific thing where you're cross-examining someone. You're going back and forth with each other's points.
Well, I'd like to know where he came up with 70 years. I want to know how he's determined.
That's simple. I'm glad you want me to clarify, because you're straw manning my argument there. It's important to respond to the arguments presented and not the argument that you think you can defend against. So, where did I come up with? If I got my numbers correct, it's 78 years. But I did graduate from public school, so it may be 74 years, but it was less than 80 years. The U.S. Constitution was signed in 1887. Slavery in the United States was abolished in 1865. So count it up. It's like 70, that would be like, 78 years that slavery existed in the United States. Now, there are 400 years. Think about it. People say, well, we were in slavery for 400 years. All right. Christopher Columbus landed in the Americas. They're not sure where. It was somewhere around Salvador, down in the Caribbean. In 1492, we all learned that in elementary school, you know. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Now, if it was 400 years, well, then slavery would have lasted all the way to 1892, and that would have been for the entire continent, which it didn't. So it lasted in the United States from 1787 to 1865, so less than a century, barely over 3/4 of a century. So that's where I come up with that number from.
So that number is misleading because
It's
basically
factual history.
No, it's not. Because let me finish. You're interrupting me, and I'm not done talking.
But it's not misleading.
So
When you say it's misleading, you're accusing me of
let me get my
misrepresenting
point out
stuff
first,
to deceive.
You keep going, and I haven't even gotten to my point yet. You don't even know what I'm about to say.
Yeah, get your point, T-Reason. Go ahead.
So my point is, when slavery was ended, there were still people that were slaves. So even though on paper something can be ended on paper, doesn't mean in reality, which is what I'm talking to Wicked about when he comes up with these hypotheticals. The reality is people were still in bondage. People were still in slavery. So just because
you can move
just
the
because it's
goalpost all you
no,
want.
I'm not moving nothing.
Well, hold on. Let me ask this question real quick.
It's not
just to
moving
make sure,
anything.
like, do you have a certain number that you're more comfortable with, T-Reason?
I would have to look. I need to look into it. I think it's closer to 200 years, but I need to actually look and see what they are. That's why I say I would prefer us to actually find out what the periods of actual slavery is, desegregation.
You got a computer in front of you.
There's
right?
a whole entire timeline of all that information that shows you that it's actually been 400 years. I just don't have that information in front of me right now.
Do you at least agree that slavery was abolished in the United States in 1865? Can we at least agree on that?
Not yet. I need to fact check.
When do you think the 13th Amendment was passed? Or do you just get to make up when some arbitrary term that agrees with your argument?
I don't want to make anything up. That's why I said I want to look into it and make sure what you're saying is true.
Okay, well, it's just simply historical fact. The 13th Amendment was passed in 1865. 200 years before that would have been 1665.
Google it while we're on a live show. Just let T-Reason Google it.
Okay. So he's clearly wrong. I said 200 years. And I'm actually a lot.
Hold on quick. I just want to say this too.
He don't know what he's talking about, man. He don't really know what he's talking about. He just start opening his mouth and he has no idea what he's talking about.
We don't have access to Google.
I know history.
It don't matter Google or not. I just said I want to make sure what he's saying is true because I know 70 years is wrong.
It's a debate, T-Reason.
No, I'm not saying Google nothing. I'm saying let's.
You know, you might have to cut it. Yeah. So real quick, I know y'all want to get the details on the amount of years and stuff like that, which is important. We're talking about suffering. I don't know how much longer we're still on this particular part right here, but hey, T-Reason in the future, if you disagree,
we can move on.
Well, hold on. Yeah, so T-Reason in the future, I mean, this is what I would recommend. You know, you can take it or not, but like as soon as you throw out a number, if you disagree, you should already be on your Google figuring out. So when you do speak, you speak with the information already there. That would obviously be to your benefit to do so. You know what I'm saying? So before you,
I do have a question.
I would already have. I mean, that takes 10 seconds max to do that.
I'm dying to know what he found. I didn't want
to look it up because then we have people like Uncle Tiger crying, talking about you can't use Google. Well, I just want to get the right information.
Now because you used Google actively while you were being refused.
Let me say this real quick, T-Reason. Let me say this real quick to the audience out there as well. And this is part of the purpose of the Vulcan Soapbox. Anybody can Google information. If I say Abraham Lincoln was born 2026, well, whatever, right? I said that wrong. My kids can Google when Abraham Lincoln was really born. That to me is more boring. Not saying that's everybody else's perspective on it. I'm more interested in your extrapolations, how you use your inferences, how do you deduce certain things to get to certain conclusions. That to me is the more intricate thing. That's something that even AI can't do all the way yet. And so, talking about a certain date ending to me, it seems like that's something more for a Google search. Because we're not, who cares how good your memory is on that information that you probably learned when you were in school or whatever? Who cares? But everybody's different. Y'all might value that a lot more than I do.
I got a question that'll lean towards what you're saying.
I'm dying to know what T-Reason found if he can let us know, because I'm dying to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, to know, man. I'm gonna get to you eventually. You know what I'm saying? The fact is gonna come. You know what I mean? You can get out your feelings. You know what I'm saying? You can
trust me, I ain't in my feelings, but I am in a history book.
You starting to sound like
the dates, man. I don't need Google, brother. I got Encyclopedia Britannica right up here, man. Right up here, man. I don't need Google.
The TV
so-
version.
Oh,
You
waiting
got
on
the
that.
discounted clearance aisle version.
Well, wait, I'll probably give you another minute, T reason on that one. I don't know. I don't think it should take that long to Google that kind of
I
information.
already have it. I've been
Okay,
there.
you ready? Okay, sorry. So go ahead. I'll let
Slavery
you.
and what became the
you and
United
Dave
States
hash this
lasted
out.
from 1619 to 1865, spanning nearly 250 years.
Again, moving the goalpost and straw
No, I'm
manning my
not moving
argument.
anything. I'm not moving
I
anything.
said in the United States, when did the United States become a nation?
So you're trying to shorten it.
1787.
You're trying to shorten it to what favors your opinion.
No,
That's
it's
what
the
you're doing.
historical truth.
The historical truth and
1787.
what was America?
1780. Do you see
250
this?
years.
Well, hold on,
1787.
hold on,
years.
Hold on real quick. So what's the debate now then? I mean, the debate. So we've established, of course, David Banner says North America. Dane brings up a point talking about America from its founding to whenever it ended, which is a good point to bring up. That's important for the conversation. So that being the case, T reason, do you now agree with them? Do you
I got an
disagree
even
with
better
them?
argument. I got an even better argument.
Okay, well,
now.
go ahead. Lay it out.
It couldn't be any worse.
My argument has improved because now you got to prove during that 50 or not even the 250 years. You got to prove from when you're talking about America was founded. You got to prove that Indians endured even more during that shorter time span because they was probably out the way by then.
No, not actually.
No,
See,
yes, actually.
It would, okay, if I could respond, it would really help our argument to go smoother, T reason, if you were a little bit more familiar, you had a little bit better working knowledge of American history. But the Indian Wars had not even really started until after the Civil War, which was ended in 1865. That's when the Indian War started. Before that, it was mostly disease and resettlement and that sort of stuff. The Trail of Tears killed about 15,000 Native Americans that were marched from the southeast, what was referred to as the civilized tribes, which would have been the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Creek, the Cherokee, and I forget the fifth one, and was marched from the southeast to Indian Territory, which is now Oklahoma. That wasn't until Andrew Johnson, the president, which was the guy who followed Lincoln. See, that's when the genocide really ramped up, was after the Civil War, during the Indian Wars and that sort of stuff, when the reservations began to be established. And, but the Civil War and slavery was pre-Geronimo, pre-Osceola, all that sort of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, and I know Wiki want to get in there real quick. T reason, do you have a rebuttal? Are you, for any of that?
Like I said, I gotta look into it because he just talking and blabbing, and we ain't got no hard facts. He could be wrong like he always is. But because he sounds like he know what he's talking about, we just gonna take it at face value. And
which part am I wrong about?
So what I'm getting from you, T reason, is that you don't have a rebuttal right now. You're just skeptical.
I gotta look. I gotta go to the history.
Am I saying it right? Am I accurately reflecting your position? Is like you don't have a rebuttal right now. You just have some skepticism about what he's saying. You're skeptical about.
I have skepticism, and
until
further notice is not proven correct.
Okay, so I want to give Wicked and Tiger a chance to get in. After these comments, sorry, we got to do the comments. Sorry. Go ahead, comments. Baby London, Wicked Dream. That is the most inconsiderate and unintelligent argument you could have. Your words are careless and cruel. On site 937. I'd agree with Tiger on this one. The population being wiped to 1% means their suffrage is worse than blacks. Dang, great response. The question is not a dichotomy and subjective, and might I add, to point of ridiculous.
I'm not sure I even understand what he was saying, but thanks.
On site 937. Dane, slavery started in 1619.
Not in the United States. The United States didn't exist then.
He don't care that it's in the same land as the United States. He don't care
20 and odd enslaved Africans occurred at Point Comfort, modern-day Hampton, Virginia, aboard the English privateer ship White. Difference in the time length is not a prerequisite for determining pain or suffering, especially since with time come change. Too many factors to argue. 246 years on site says. Yeah, that's right, Dane. 1865. Abolish 1865. Tia Ketter. What's the deal? On site 937, December 6th to be exact. Probably is not actually. The Cherokee, I guess you don't have to pick every comment, just the comments you think are, because I don't know how long we got on these comments. The Cherokee is made of tribe of pale people.
That's true.
Indians suffered over 500 years do if we going off time, then they still suffer longer. People, please try to help out with the grammar a little bit on that. But yeah. So I want to give everybody a chance. If you want to respond to any of the comments, we're gonna go to the next one soon. But I want to give Tiger and Wicked a chance to get in there. Go ahead, Tiger. What you in a minute and a half or less, what you got to say about what's been said so far?
I mean, what more is there to say? I mean, we ask a subjective question: who suffered more? I give a subjective answer, and then it's like, well, where's the objectivity? And it's like, well, I mean, I think, and then so we point out the objectivity by saying, here are the years, here's the population percentages, et cetera, and it's still not good enough. So what more is there to say?
Cool. All right, Wicked Dream, what's on you?
All right. So I just have a question. Would you say that a lot of tribes today are forced to live on small plots of land where they have very limited water supply, food supply, don't have a lot of the amenities that we have, pretty much live half the life that we do? Would you consider that still, do you think that still happens today?
For me?
This is for both of you who say that.
Yeah. I would say that definitely still has today. I would say that still happens today. I mean, like from my understanding of the metrics, African Americans tend to be lower on the metrics, but the Native Americans even lower than a lot of African Americans when it comes to like alcoholism, test scores, SAT scores, criminality in the community and stuff like that. They tend to be at the very bottom. So there's definitely a lot going on in that community.
It used to
what about even like the Navajo tribe, I believe it is, that's out west. Their water supply that they have is very limited on the amounts that they can use daily, stuff like that. Does that happen to Black people today? In the way that they're living, they're still suffering. I know that.
Let me bring them down. Maybe y'all can hear me a little better.
Yeah, we can hear you, Dan.
Go ahead, Wicked.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize my mic was unmuted. I was adjusting.
But I say, even till today, there's Native American tribes that are living in very, very scarce supplies, areas, very limited on what they can do and how they're able to actually even thrive and produce good communities. Obviously, there are some that are doing well because they got their casino licenses, but that's not a good majority of them that have that. There's many more, I believe, that are still living in very scarce livings today. So I think that's why I think they might be suffering a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think again, those are it's already been said. I think it's a subjective thing. I'm trying to pull some objectivity out of it. If anything,
that's what I think the objectively was, because they're limited on water supplies, or how many Black people are limited on water supplies, food supplies.
I'll offer a counter to that though. Because the thing is that, again, I'm focused on the suffering thing. People can be in tough situations. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're suffering. I guess for me, how I'm looking like this, and this is, I guess, my thought experiment. Being slavery for a year, or spend 5 years like the Native Americans are living. I'm going to take that 5 years like the Native Americans over actually being a slave. You see what I'm saying? Like the chattel slavery of the South. That's why I'm saying, I think whether we do it, because David Banner's original point was North America, it wasn't America specifically. But I think it could be made, even with Dane's point about when America was founded, it could still be the case that, just, I guess, in your own mind, would you rather have been a slave in the chattel slave, where you're a property, they can sleep with your wife, they can do whatever they want to you, or would you rather live on a reservation with not enough resources? I would take that reservation every single time over being a slave. But I'm curious to know for y'all.
I don't know. It would depend on how old my wife was, really.
I would say, what are the living conditions that you're in as a slave compared to the living conditions as a Native American?
So my argument against what you're saying, Wicked, is pretty much you would have to talk to them personally and see if they view that as suffering, because some of that they may enjoy it. They may enjoy living off the land. They may enjoy
I could turn that same argument back at you.
No, you can't, because there's enough people vocal about it to say that they don't like the situation. There's many people.
There's many Native Americans that are vocal saying that they don't like their situation.
Yeah,
again, I can throw the same argument at you. So you can't argue me. You can't argue a point with me that I can turn around at you.
No, what I'm saying is, we would have to talk to those people. We'd have to let them have a voice and let them say, okay, yeah, we would rather have,
but that doesn't refute my argument. That doesn't refute what I'm saying.
They may not want to be Americanized. It might be suffering from your lens, because you're used to running water and you know you live in a home and different things like that, but they can pervert the environment that they're in. You don't know if they pervert the environment.
You got to be careful.
So hold on a second. You're gonna hold on, real quick. I just want to make sure I'm understanding you right now. You're gonna tell me that somebody is gonna prefer not having active running water than having active running water?
As long as they get water. As long as they get water, as long as they have a method of obtaining water, whatever that method may be.
So if I take away your running water right now, you'd be okay with that?
But that you're asking someone that has already lived through a certain level of circumstance versus someone that this is all they know. You see what I'm saying? That's a different perspective. That's you're putting your own personal bias.
Degrees of
you're putting your own personal bias on someone else. Like
I don't think that's a personal bias. I mean I think it's pretty universal.
Let me elaborate on that. If I never lived in a mansion, I wouldn't feel no type of way not living in a mansion.
But if you saw mansions, but if you see mansions all the time.
But if I lived in a mansion for majority of my childhood, and then as an adult, now I no longer live in a mansion, I may feel some degree of suffrage because now my living conditions have gone down. You see what I'm saying? But if there's people who literally live in tents, in huts in the middle of nowhere, and they're perfectly content with their life. They're not in the level of suffering. They don't see it as suffering. Whereas if you had to go live in that hut, you would
so you want to take them.
You're not accustomed to those living parameters. You wouldn't know how to survive. You would struggle.
I think we got your point. I think we got your point.
You would starve in the first few.
Yeah, I think we got your point.
Yeah, but what you're doing, you're trying to argue a minority against my majority. How many people live in huts compared to how many people live in cities and actual civilization places compared to a tree with a coconut?
That doesn't prove anything. The environment that they're in is the environment that they're in. Most of them are not living in major cities like us. So you're comparing a group of people who live.
You're right. And do you think that if they were able to, do you think if those Native Americans were able to build those cities to the same level that we're in our cities, but their own cities, they wouldn't want to do that?
You're agreeing with me. You're proving my point.
Hold on. Let's get Tiger. Let's get Tiger in real quick.
Yeah, I just have a question. How many Native Americans are on this panel who are even capable of having this conversation versus African Americans? I think that's a fair question.
I'm Native American.
I don't know that I think that's a
Can I call you Pocahontas?
To me, that's kind of like women who say, unless you have a uterus, you can't have an opinion on abortion. That doesn't.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, Tiger, if you
it's just to demonstrate a point. It's just to demonstrate, like, we're arguing. Black, we're arguing subjectively who suffered more, and it's like, okay, well, where's the Native American here to defend their position? They're not here because a lot of them don't have access to this, right? I mean, they're not all, okay, all right, but we don't have anybody who lives on the reservation here to defend their level of suffering,
But I still want to hear y'all's answer to my question. Again, this doesn't prove my point right, but I do think it's a decent question. Maybe it's not. Y'all let me know. But what I'm saying is this: to be a slave during chattel slavery, right? Chattel, like would you rather spend 1 year like that, or would you rather spend 5 years on a reservation as a Native American?
Depends. What are the living conditions as the slave? What are the living conditions
your best understanding?
As we know. Okay, so let's do it like this. Okay, hold on. Let's go to a reference. Let's see if we can reference this. You've seen the movie Life, correct? Tell me you can't say you haven't seen the movie Life.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
All right, so I'm glad we're on the same page here. So would you rather be in the house, shot in the car, or would you rather be digging the ditch? If you're digging the ditch, you're living the same life as the Native American. If you're buffing the car and living in the house.
Well, on this thing right here, why are we going to another analogy? I already gave one. It seems like you're giving another analogy.
Well, because there's two different, in your analogy, there's two different levels of how the slavery went. Like there were some that had better lives than other slaves.
Yeah, for sure.
They were, you know what I mean? So it's like, at which level of it are you at? You know what I mean? There's only one level in the Native American end.
Take whatever your understanding of the history of the average is, right? Whatever your understanding of the history of the average Native American lifestyle, for 5 years, or the average slave in chattel slavery for a year. Which one are you? Which one? I mean, I just want to. I mean, again, it's not going to prove my
There's
point
Pete
right.
Dusty.
It's not. What's going on, Powder?
Oh,
What's going on? Thank you for having me up.
Right. This is just. I'm just curious to know which one y'all would choose.
Again, so I know that there's two different. So it's hard for me. It's not that I can't answer. It's kind of hard because me personally, you said from what I know, right? From what I know is that there was two different lifestyles towards slavery. There were some that had it really a little bit better, which was still bad, and there were some that had it really bad.
Yeah.
But I only know of one lifestyle which was really bad for Native Americans. So it's kind of hard for me to compare the two because it's like which one, if I'm comparing the really bad one to the Native American, it's like I'll take the really bad one because it's only a year compared to 5 years. But if it's the good one, or if it's, you know what I mean, it just depends on which one.
Yeah, just so Tiger, if you can get that, whatever your version of the average slave lifestyle would have been in chattel slavery, or 5 years, and whatever your understanding of reservation, which one would you take?
Yeah, I would take the chattel slavery, because here's the thing: if we look at the outcomes for the two different peoples, several hundred years later, again, Native Americans are diminished to less than 2, maybe even less than 1% of the U.S. population, with very little to no representation. Black folks in America today are a much larger demographic with a very real level of representation. Now, we can argue its effectiveness, but it is the case that you know, Black people have fared better in comparison to Native Americans, you know, chattel slavery versus you know, literally being displaced.
So I'm getting you right, Tiger. Your comparison is not really about the actual lifestyle of two; it's the outcome overall.
Well, okay, I can do that too. So
you don't have to. I would just make sure I understand your point.
Native Americans have their own nations and their own people groups, their own armies, their own, you know, social program. African Americans were brought here against their will, and eventually, over time, several hundred years later, actually benefited from it. The Native Americans were completely displaced. They fought tooth and nail to preserve their peoplehood and their nationhood, and they failed. They lost.
Okay,
that is actually worse.
So let me ask T. Reason, for you, an average slave in chattel slavery or 5 years on a reservation as a Native American, which one would you
headed to the reservation.
Okay,
I'm going to the reservation.
Okay, Dane, what about for yourself?
Oh, I don't know. If you say 5 years of chattel slavery.
No, 1 year as a slave, chattel slavery. You know, all that comes with that, whatever your understanding of it is.
If I could be a chattel slave in a place like Virginia or Maryland,
5 years on a reservation.
Yeah, if I could be a chattel slave in some place upriver like Virginia, Maryland, then I'd probably choose that.
So you don't Wicked's point, you're gonna be just thrown out there. You don't know where you're gonna end up. I'm just saying,
it's like a random bear question.
They're gonna put you butt in your ass. You're gonna be on the auction block, and they're gonna sell you off.
You know, can you cut it real quick? Yeah, so real quick, just to make sure I understand the question is, and we're going to move on here soon, but I just want to at least get the answer, you know, real quick. So what I'm saying is this: you get, you know, we'll say you're reincarnated. You don't, you don't know the timeline. All you know is that you're going to be in chattel slavery as a slave, or you're going to be on a reservation for 5 years as Native American. You don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know anything other than you sign for one or the other. Which one are you signing up for?
Well, my preference, I'd probably take a reservation, but that doesn't mean that Indians suffered any less than or more than Black people. Just my personal preference. Yeah, I
was just curious to hear everybody's thoughts, and then even the Powder Dusty. You want to comment on that one?
If I don't have a family, I would take 1 year chattel slavery. If I do have a family, I would choose a reservation. And when I say chattel slavery, I'm in my mind, it's more like being in jail or in prison than it is like, you know, getting whipped and thrown in the sweat box or whatever, right? So,
okay,
if it's that Django degree, then I'm probably gonna go with the reservation either way.
Okay. I would have thought it'd been reversed with the family. I would probably go reservation, but if it was just me, I would still go reservation either way. But
I assume that the family's gonna be slaves too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I would say it was the family. You know, then you can sleep with your wife if he wants to. You can chop your kid's foot off. I'd rather go to. I mean, I would take my family.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. If I have a family, for sure, reservation.
Okay.
If I don't have a family, I might consider trying to just push through the 1 year so that I can get back on track with life.
Okay, got you. Okay, cool. I know we're not going to finish that one right there. You know, so we can go to
If I could I add something, Vulcan, just real quick?
Okay, yes,
Just want
sir.
to point out, you know, T-Reason, he was wanting to date slavery going all the way back to 16 whatever, whereas I was looking at within the span of the United States. I just want to point out that if we're going to back up to 16 whatever, then, and if we're going to look at North and South America versus just the United States, well, then we would have to also include the Spanish conquest of Central and South America, which was horribly, horribly brutal on those Native Americans, so much so then the Catholic Spanish were so much more brutal and genocidal than the Protestant Americans were, the United States was. So if you consider what happened to those empires down there, then I'm not sure that it would be any comparison to chattel slavery. If we're going,
so it sounds like you left North America and went to South America. Sound like what you did.
Yeah, and I just want to say this.
And I think that's kind of.
Do you know where the Aztecs were at, T-Reason?
Well, I just want to say this real quick so everybody understand. David Banner's point was who had it worse in North America. But I think we got a lot of good history out of this situation too. Yeah, you know, so we if you don't have any comments, let's go to the next one. Oh yeah, so on site says Tiger made the most sense. But y'all already been in the argument mode, so y'all cannot hear yet. Y'all hear yet. Y'all listen. The same pale people who killed and captured slaves came to America to kill and capture Native Americans. The people are different, yet the events are the same. I should hop on and tell y'all a story Grandpa told me.
Hop on, man. Come on with it.
The argument is diabolical, and the answers are maniacal. Seeking a panelist with fresh, innovative content are called serious inquiries only, open to collaborations where value and expertise are mutually compensated. Sounds good to me. All right, you know, next one. You spent 40 minutes on that one. Dang.
Is this. What happens in most, have you ever noticed when you get a contract from white folks, there's about 40 pages of what they want from you and about 3 pages of what they're going to give you. When we walk into business situations, we usually don't know our worth and we don't know what we want. All we know is we want some money. When you know, I know you know this now. Usually if you get a lot of money on the front end, you getting your ass towed up. You a slave at the end, right? So what I realize is that when we stay in these small spaces, we usually don't have a vision. I saw,
yeah, so on this one right here, talking about the contracts, we'll start with you, Tiger. What do you think about what he said about that? You agree, disagree, and why?
Yeah, what I heard was, well, you know, white people deliberately deceive us because they know how to run businesses and they know how to formulate contracts that work in their business's favor. And boo white people for being smart enough to do that. That's really all I heard. So,
yeah. Got you. Okay, the Powder Dusty. What do you got on that?
I just heard somebody who doesn't understand how contracts work. All contract, if I present you a contract, that's why it's called a negotiation. If I present you a contract, I'm not concerned with looking out for your well-being. I'm looking out for my well-being. If you want to put something in the contract, that's on you. So I think that he's just confused about how contracts work and he's turning it into a race issue when it's not one.
Correct.
Okay. Wicked, what you got?
I mean, I just hear no accountability for not reading a contract.
Yo.
Yep.
That's all that I heard. So what does color have to do with you not being able to read a contract?
Yeah, don't
That's
sign
the problem.
Don't sign
You know
a
how many
contract
people,
that doesn't benefit you.
Most people don't even read stuff. They just sign it. Like half of us probably didn't even read the terms to YouTube that we're on right now and just hit that agree button.
I didn't read any of those rules Vulcan put up before the podcast. I just didn't read.
Yeah.
Y'all ain't taking your own advice.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like it's if somebody presents you with, hey, here's a business deal, it is on you to make sure that you read that business deal, you agree to it, and once you sign that contract, that responsibility is on you. There is no responsibility on anybody else but you, because you were the one who signed it. They didn't force you to sign it. They didn't put a gun to your head and tell you to sign it. They didn't tell you they're going to give you like connect somebody for ransom, and if you don't pay them, you have to sign it. It was you. You made the decision. You read the contract, you agreed to it.
T. Reason, what for yourself?
I think this topic was an eye opener, and I think I'm glad he said that, because it actually exposed something that further is another form of persecution blacks endured in America. Because coming into this, because it's all about information, it's all about understanding what you're getting involved in and parameters. So these people are thinking or coming into something with ignorance, and it's not because they're not smart enough to know right from wrong and the correct way to go about things. It's just they're not taught these things. You see what I'm saying? So information is very powerful, and I think that, you know, here in this panel, all kind of be an echo chamber for the same thought process. Kind of is an eye opener, and it lets you know, honestly, you better read the contract. Don't sign anything that you don't agree to, because they're not going to look out for your best interest. And it further proves his point that we as Black people have to come into something with our guard up and with our eyes open and say, you know, this person may literally screw me over on this contract that I think is something written fair for anybody coming into an engagement with this company or this entity. And that's why information and knowledge is important, and is kind of an eye opener to hear so many people agree that, you know, a contract is almost pretty much from their standpoint designed to screw you over, and you better negotiate it to get the terms and conditions to even make sense or be fair. Because that's
all right, yeah. You said some good points there, T. Reason. Let's get Dane. Let's get Dane in there.
My. I haven't heard as much buck passing and blaming other people for not preparing folks for adult life in a long time. I got a few names for you to respond to this, okay? Suge Knight, Barry Gordy, P. Diddy, okay? These are all people in the music industry. Do you think that these guys, when they sat down with black artists, the white artists, the yellow artists, the green artists, and they said, hey, man, let me educate you about contracts? No. Business in general, whether you're selling records, whether you're selling gasoline, business in general is about investing the lowest amount of money and selling for the most money and making the profit in the middle. The only color that most business people care about, if they're a good business person at all, is green. So they're going to screw over Vanilla Ice just like they're going to screw over T Reason. It's about the money. See, and there's so many more layers to the issue of how black artists have been exploited. Like Little Richard invented rock and roll music, basically, and he didn't profit nearly as much as Elvis, okay? We can make that argument, but the layers that cause that to happen is so much more than just a contract from a business person and some racist motivation to screw over the black artist. There's so much more to that. I'd love to get into it.
Yeah, I think for me, from my perspective on it, I don't think it's necessarily a racial thing. You know, if I can use like the show Fresh Prince, for instance, I think if Carlton and Will Smith are going to create contracts, Will Smith's more likely to be more empathetic in his contract because of cultural thing. You know, people that tend to see themselves more individualized tend to be obviously more selfish, more self-serving. They're going to make sure the contract's in their favor, and their more in and out group is maybe a little bit more stronger in that sense. There's me and my family, and there's everybody else. I got to feed mine. And I think that some people who grew up in, like, you know, more urban or maybe even the trailer parks where you kind of have to team up, you know, you have to work with other people a lot more. You're more likely to think about the other person. I think they're typically have a little bit more higher empathy. You know, people who've been in business, been in the corporate world, the empathy is a little bit lower, typically, you know, just culturally. And so, yeah, they might, you know, give you a contract that maybe somebody who's a little bit more higher in empathy may feel uncomfortable giving. So I think there's something to that for sure. Now, I don't think it's racial. I think that's more of a cultural thing. So, but it does impact because maybe there's certain races, if you want to call it that have more of that in their culture, you know, or there are more of them in that particular type of culture that would value the dollar over maybe somebody's freedom or their masters or whatever the case may be at the end. So I would say that's probably more about that. And I think there is a racial element to it, but it's just not split on the line racially.
So I do have one question, which I just thought of in my head. So most black people have the mentality that white people are bad, like just as white people are out to either get you or do something bad to you. especially if it comes to a business area. So wouldn't you, having that mentality, automatically think that you should look over what you're signing to make sure that it's benefiting you if it is a racial issue in your mind?
That's your
Like
perspective.
if you have that racial mentality, I'm talking about if you have that racial mentality.
Sorry, hold on real quick. And just for the panel, if it's a question for a specific person, try to add the name to it.
Well, I don't know if it was more because you're saying it's a racial thing, and the way that I interpret this is he's coming at it from a racial perspective. So if you have
David Banner
and the David Banner.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So if he has that racial mentality, so his mentality being a racial mentality, as he would automatically assume that since it's a white person, that their intention would be malicious. Whether it is or isn't is irrelevant. But if you have the mentality of racial identity, you would think that the other race's intention would be malicious.
So can I break it down?
Did he finish the question? Hold on. Did he finish the question?
So if you have that mentality, would you not try to look over what the other person is trying to sell you or get you to sign? You know what I mean? As that's just coming from the I have a racial mentality basis.
We get it. You said it like 4 or 5 times. I guess the question is this: like, who is that for specifically, or is that for everybody?
Well, that would be for everybody. Everybody question, kind of, I guess.
Take a turn and answer that question.
Yeah.
Okay. And y'all know y'all can't make it specific to one person. It have to be for everybody every time.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, I just think I don't think that's not really a person specific question because I didn't really get that idea from anybody specifically. Okay. But it just kind of popped into my head that okay, well, if I have a racial mentality, I would automatically be assuming nefarious activity. I would want to investigate into whatever I'm signing or is being sold.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, and I think pretty much everybody would agree with that. I mean, any race or not, if you're skeptical about a certain group, then obviously you're going to scrutinize whatever literature they're providing,
That's not what comes into play for these types of examples we're using.
Okay, go ahead, T-Reason, go ahead.
So a lot of times when you're dealing with, like, let's say enterprise, or you're dealing with, like, say, for example, the artist was an example he gave, like P. Diddy and all these other big names, right? So when you're coming into a contract, whether your example was when a black person is dealing with a white person, they automatically don't trust white people. So why would they sign a contract without reading it? So a lot of times what we're looking for, okay, is this a reputable company? Is there other people employed at this company? So when we get that contract, it's a standardized contract. So we're thinking that we're signing a contract that not only did I sign, but all the people that I know who work for this company, have worked for this company, have done business with this company, left reviews on this company.
Hold on. When you say weird, who are you? Who's the weird? Who's in this weird category?
So black people. People. When they're signing these contracts, they're assuming the contract they're getting is the same contract that the other people already in that office, whether they be white, brown, Hispanic, Latino, whatever the case may be. They're assuming that they're getting a standardized contract. They're not assuming that this contract.
You're just more explaining the psychology of people who are signing this kind of event.
Exactly, because he's saying, why would black people? He's saying in ignorance, why would black people sign a contract when he cannot? But
he's.
Can I see your problem right there? You said assume.
Hold on, real quick. He's not just saying why they would do it. He's also saying, given the skepticism there, you would think you would have even a greater reason to.
Yeah, because you're saying assume.
Are you saying?
You're thinking?
Hold on. Do you agree with him, T-Reason, about? Because I don't hear you disagreeing with him about.
I disagree.
I'm gonna have to.
I'm saying
I'm
people
gonna find a way to get Wicked Dreams to calm down a little bit because I'm feeling a little left out. I'm feeling a little overlooked. He's in there beating up on.
Yes, sorry, T-Reason. What are you saying?
They're looking at it as this is a standard contract. They're not looking at it as.
But what I'm saying, what did Wicked say that you disagree with? Is I don't hear you disagree.
What I disagree with is he's saying that if you don't trust white people, why would you sign a contract without reading it and going deep into it to see if you're getting screwed over or not? Why would you just?
But you're obviously not disagreeing with a question. That's a question. You're not disagreeing with a question, right?
I can answer your question.
I'm explaining,
and I can answer that.
I'm saying,
hold on, but again, the why isn't the disagreement. Why they would or why they wouldn't? I mean, like Wicked, do you disagree with his reason why people do it?
Well, yes, I disagree with it because he used the key word.
You disagree with why they do it, or you disagree that it's a good idea to do it for that reason? Those are two different things.
Well, I disagree that it's bad to do it for that reason.
Hold on, but he hasn't. Are you saying it's a good reason to do it, T-Reason? Because I'm saying my issue is I don't hear us actually disagreeing. I hear us staying on different topics. So I'm saying.
So here, I'm just stuck on one key word that he said they assume. So that right there is taking away the responsibility from the person.
He just said
Well,
they
because guess
assume.
what?
He
If I
didn't say
had
it's good or bad to assume, are you saying it's good to assume that, T Reason?
Well, what I'm saying is they're told this is a standard
Again, I
contract.
get all that. I mean, but again, where's the disagreement between the two of y'all? I guess this thing, right? This is important for the show. Y'all got to be able to hear what's called clash. Where are y'all actually clashing on the issue?
We clash on the fact that they
One's
signed the
explaining
contract.
psychology, the other person is explaining something else. Where's the disagreement?
What we're clashing on is he's saying that you shouldn't sign a contract. He's saying you should never, there should be no situation where you signed a contract without first ensuring that the contract you're signing makes sense.
And you're saying you disagree.
And I'm saying I disagree. I'm telling you why people do it
Hold on.
why it
Why
happens.
you do it is different than you disagreeing with what he said. That's the part we got to understand.
Now, I don't think you should. but
Okay,
I'm
then y'all
saying-
agree. Then y'all agree. That's the point I'm making. Y'all are not
Ain't logic
disagreeing.
great?
This is important on the Vulcan Soapbox for the panel and the audience out there. You got to hear the clash. Don't let time get wasted with red herrings and getting off topic. There is no disagreement here. Y'all get that? Does everybody get that now?
Disagreement is there is a disagreement.
I get it.
Well, please say it. If there's a real disagreement, state the disagreement so it can be obvious to everybody.
He's saying that they should never, if they already come into it not trusting white people, then when they do a contract, they should never sign it.
No, what he said is they should scrutinize it more closely.
Right. They shouldn't just sign it right out.
Okay, let me give you an example. T Reason.
I can't imagine you disagree with that.
I'm
I
saying
can't
that-
imagine you disagree with him on that. I can't imagine you disagree with him on that.
Maybe I can give a different example.
Okay, because I just don't. Because the thing is,
I see what you're saying, Vulcan, and I agree on that standpoint.
Okay,
that yeah,
then
they
there's no
should look
disagreement.
over it, but I can understand.
okay, well, yeah, but we're not dealing with whether you can understand him. Obviously, we can all understand everything in human experience if we decide to understand it. But there's no disagreement here. Go ahead, T Reason. I want to hear it.
I don't know. I don't know if we can all understand that. You know what I'm saying?
I just have one question for him, real quick. Then
I'm getting from the panel. I don't know if we can all assume that.
Okay, go ahead.
T Reason, let me ask you a question. Do you trust the bank teller?
Yeah.
Do you count your money when you get it back from the bank teller?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Point proven. Thank you very much.
What did you prove? What is the point?
Because you said that people are trusting their friends. They have people that they know who get these contracts, and they just agree with what they're saying because they assume. You're assuming that the bank teller gave you money, but yet you're still counting it. Therefore, if you assume, then you would reread the contract.
Not every time though. So them times I didn't check, I could have got screwed over.
And that's my whole entire point. But you still check. You take the responsibility and you still check on it. Even though you trust the person that you're saying, you still have the responsibility to check and make sure.
Well, I assume he already agreed.
I'm never
with
saying
point.
that they're not
Everybody-
ultimately responsible. I'm never taking the off that person to read over the contract, but I'm just saying now you see to the level that the playing field is, because some people don't understand that. Just because you do doesn't mean everyone else does.
Well, then that's their own fault, T Reason. Don't you
No, it's not.
understand that if
It's
you
not their own
sign
fault.
an
It's not.
unfavorable contract, it's on you, no matter what your race is, you lunatic?
The point,
It's really
So-
that simple.
the point that I'm trying to make is because you understand that doesn't mean that everyone before you prior to
Well,
this
then that's their
conversation
own
understood that.
fault.
It's not their own
Don't
fault.
be stupid. It's pretty simple.
Okay. Well, let me ask this question.
goes back to the-
Let me ask this question, T Reason. If it's not, whose fault would it be from your perspective?
This is the same reason why they don't believe white privilege exists. This is the exact this concept right here. that we're talking
Obfuscation.
about. This is
Obfuscation.
exactly why. This is exactly why I
100%
say the things that I
obfuscation.
say because they want.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Because
But
it
T
goes,
Reason, whose fault would it be from your perspective? I'm trying to really understand where you're coming from. Whose fault would you say
I'm
it
just
is?
saying, institutionalize. Make sure everyone is on the same page and has the same understanding. That's all I'm saying. Be fair about the information. Don't be shady about it. That's all I'm saying.
So are you saying that there is no fault for anybody?
I've already said I'm not going to never say they're not responsible for reading the contract. But what I'm saying is some people, just because I understand to read the contract doesn't mean the next 10 people behind me understand to read the
reads a
contract.
doesn't read it good enough, whatever the reason is, they sign a bad contract.
I
Is
think there
there
should
fault-
still
is there
be some
fault?
onus on the company to have some wherewithal to be fair and indiscriminate about the contracts that they're dishing out, and they should be held responsible for that. There should be lawsuits filed for some type of negligence or some type of
stupid people
like,
should just be forgiven for signing.
I have a serious. Okay, hold on.
no, you're not. No, but you can't just take advantage of people. You can't sign somebody
Vulcan.
into slavery and then just be like, oh well, you signed a contract, so I get to make you the slave for the rest of my life. That is.
Well,
Wait, I have one serious question then. So wait, so are you just so I can understand what you're saying real quick? Are you saying because somebody didn't know that they're not responsible for what they did?
I'm saying that it depends on how extreme it is. And when it crosses over violating somebody's rights or violating somebody's position financially, I think there should be some accountability for that. I think you should be able to file a lawsuit for
well, I
someone.
mean, I think everybody would agree with
especially
that.
when they're doing it to a large group of people.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not.
that's fair. I mean, obviously, we can get in that. We can all think of extreme examples where obviously, like people, anybody who's in business have to deal with like non-compete clauses. Sometimes they'll throw it out if it's unreasonable, right? So, I mean, I think we all agree that there's going to be unreasonable aspects to a contract that the courts may throw out. That's
Sure.
fair to say.
But it's
So-
not violating someone's rights to want them to read the contract they signed to. Your
No one's
signature.
arguing that.
Hold on, let him
Not
finish.
arguing.
Let him finish.
It actually sounds like you are arguing that.
Go ahead, the powder dusty. Finish your point. Whatever you got. Whatever. You got.
My point is that everybody's responsible for looking out for their own interests. That means reading the thing that you sign. If you don't sign it, if you don't read it and you sign it, you're almost committing fraud because you're agreeing to terms that you didn't bother to read. That's individual laziness. Maybe you can call it ignorance, but to say that, to try to chalk it up to to the other party's malice or anything other than your own negligence is entitlement. It's just a weird form of entitlement masquerading as victimhood.
Insanity. Yeah. Based.
If I could say something,
So
Vulcan.
I like to cross-examine Powder Dusty. I have a question. I have a question for you.
Okay. I'm gonna give
Y'all
this
laughing.
2 minutes. Go ahead.
I just want to know: have you ever signed a contract
Yes.
that you didn't read?
Hold on. Does it? Okay. Well, I don't. We're gonna get
Yes.
into personals, but
So you have.
Yes.
I've already gone through this.
So you've exercised the same level of ignorance that you just said other people shouldn't.
I've exercised the same level of negligence that I said
Okay.
would be other
That's
people's
all-
fault,
that's- that's all
but
I'm
it's the same for me. It's the same for me.
I want to hear like
If-
T. Reason, where you going with this? What's your point next?
Because he could fall victim to the same thing. That's
Dude,
all I'm
I would
saying.
But
I would
think
be a
that-
victim
So
in
does
my
that
own
mean the evil
negligence.
white man was racist against
I
him?
think Teresa, if I'm hearing it correctly, his point that the Powder Dusty is just saying is that in times when he was negligent like that, he is not a victim. It was his fault. Well, you disagree with that point?
No, I don't disagree with that, but he was ignorant because he
Okay,
didn't read.
I think we're all on the same page then, right?
He just literally talked about himself.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I think we're all on the same page with that, right?
I think
I mean,
every
I
single
think
one of us has done that.
Vulcan.
Yeah, everybody's
Vulcan.
done it. I'm not saying I'm any better than anyone else. I'm saying that I'm just not as entitled, I suppose, as it sounds like T Reason might be to have the other party look out for my interest more than I'm willing to look out for my own interest. That's insanity.
Yeah.
My.
As we can go to the next one here. I know,
Vulcan.
go ahead,
Vulcan.
Dane.
Could I weigh in on a little bit? First of all, Powder Dusty here on other debate panels, me and him engage a lot like me and T Reason do on this panel. So I'm surprised that I'm agreeing with Dusty on this panel. But you and I have talked off stream lately, Vulcan, about the feminine masculine. If I could just make it real quick, this is a perfect example. The people who are saying I'm responsible for my due diligence and taking care of myself and providing for myself and protecting myself and building for myself, that's the masculine mindset.
Get out
The
of here.
feminine mindset says I need resources from others, protection from others, provision from others. I'm not calling anybody effeminate like in an LBGT fashion. I'm saying the two different ways of thinking. The men say I'm going to cut down the trees and build a road and take the trees and build a cabin. That's masculinity. Femininity says, well, someone needs to tell me where the cabin's at and how to get there. That is that being provided for, which seems to be what T Reason up here is expecting, is someone else to look out for the people instead of expecting them to do their own due diligence. And T Reason, I don't appreciate you making me agree with Powder Dusty because this is unnatural, but here we are.
Let me cut in here real quick, Dane. I want to give T Reason a chance to respond, but if you don't mind, T Reason, I think there's two things I'm hearing to respond to. One is just in the abstract. Do you agree with them that one's more feminine, one's more masculine?
No, I don't.
Then you could speak to more personally to you, whether you think that you are displaying more of a feminine mind frame in that as well. But if you can just kind of address both of those.
I think it's so easy to take all of the accountability off the people issuing the contract. I think it's so easy to say, well, it's not their job to make sure the contract's fair. You know, we can screw as many people over and have as many people come in here and sign this contract, knowing that they need the money or the things that we're going to provide. But we don't have to try to be fair. We don't have to strive for any good business. We can do bad business all over town, and they're just going to have to suck it up and take it, whether they like it or not. Even if we're the only kids on the block, oh well, so be it. Tough.
Survival of the fittest. That's
better
masculinity.
Go figure it out. Better go figure it out. Instead of saying, you know what, let me make it make sense for all the parties involved. Let me do good business. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm like, it's almost like you almost got to make sure, no matter what the circumstances is, this could be somebody that you know, and they're gonna stab you in the back. And I don't operate under those circumstances.
What is, if I own a business, what is my purpose? If I'm going to be fair with my business, what is my purpose to accomplish, my goal to accomplish in my business? What is it?
So it sounds like what you're telling me right now is
I'm asking you a question. Don't tell me what it sounds like. I'm asking. It's simple. What is my goal? What is my goal in the business?
Well, let's. I think we covered that pretty well, y'all. Let's go to the next one right now. Let's go. Let's go to the next. Oh, we got some comments here. So Raging Patriot says white fatigue is real. Whitey ain't right. You heard?
Thank you, Raging Patriot, for 10 months of membership.
Yeah. And then what we got next? White folks are J's, FYI.
That's why Dane's wearing that little hat right there.
Yeah. Documentation over conversation at the Powder Dusty.
I don't even know what that means.
Right.
I don't either, but this is an Irish cap, Dusty. It's Irish, man.
Do you know who Soy Pill is?
No,
unfortunately, we've seen them.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so Bunyo says, T Reason, I like your take, but keep that dope mic for your freestyle via arguments are trash.
Opinions over
John Watt says, after dealing with contracts so long, most people won't read it. You're in front of them, they just sign. LOL. No color involved.
That is true, John. Good point.
What's up, Cynthia? Hey, happy Monday. Happy Monday to you as well. Powder Dusty, cruising the streets of white tea. John Watts comes with a low class, middle class positioning and education. More white people will go for their own kind, having a step up because it's less competition, even if it's subconsciously. How do you know what white people think subconsciously?
That's a good question. P Dust is on it tonight.
Why would you SIGA any contract? Why would you sign any contract you didn't read? From the Caucasians.
We've given many examples why.
Better question, would they offer the white person the same contract as a colored folk?
Exactly.
John Watts?
Exactly.
I don't know why they wouldn't.
Powder Dusty, you know what white people think subconsciously, so don't keep us waiting, John. Munoz says, don't throw a contract. Don't throw a contract at me. You know that N word as can't read. Yay. Bet you get your dealers to wait up in front of you.
I don't know what that means.
I do.
Dang, stop acting like you don't know. You don't know.
Educational level, which black schools are proven to be less funded for better education, which is critical thinking skills? How many comments we got?
Exactly.
The revenue.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Just get your reparations from hundreds of years ago. The panel verse came to give a sub and smash that like. Appreciate you, big dog.
You got to watch the Panelverse people coming in here, though. Do you have an extermination contract for this podcast?
So if I didn't ask her age before, I'm not a PDF. T Reason's logic. No, that's a totally different parameter.
Yeah.
Maybe that sounds good.
That's not
sense to me.
That's illogical as hell to compare contract versus engagement.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
So Angry Casper says ignorant and negligent is not the same. Why bother reading, brother, if you do not know the words? The panel verse, Raging Hate Triad, whatever. One of the three who thought it was funny to try and use my child in a chat while slept. LOL, while asleep. It's like clicking on the terms of agreement and not reading all 30 pages, then crying about you got banned for saying something dumb. It's on you.
That's exactly what I said.
Thank you, Raging Patriot, for the 5.
Patriot, yeah. The panel verse, Dane, you can't even wipe your butt. No advice needed from you.
Fat joke.
I have a bidet. I have a bidet because my hand is too good to get crap on it. I just turn the knob and it pressure washes it, man. It hoses off my hoo-ha, man. It's
because you like
wonderful.
things shot up your ass.
Yeah.
It makes me feel a little warm and fuzzy when that cold water hits my little, dookie shoot.
Yeah, Munoz says, Dane, your purpose you want to hire people like you. You're a bunch of gnomes.
Gnomes.
I'm a white female that signed a cell phone protection contract once. It covered nothing useful. They didn't fix my phone. It was on the contract. I'm a female victim and a man should have known better. It is illegal not to offer the same contract.
Look at him.
Wow, y'all be so effing racist.
Get him.
If I could say something, Vulcan.
Yeah,
I've seen a few things even in.
I'm hoping he knows you're having me just read the ones I need to be reading, man. But to be fair, every single person is the panel verse day, and you flow everyone if you click in, you're the verse.
Yeah, that's what they say.
I would like to say first,
true.
I do understand that those creating the contract should not seek to take advantage of anyone. That being said, you're responsible for whatever agreement you accept.
Capitalism is geared to take advantage of people. I mean, by nature, that's how you make profit.
Capitalism is bad for society.
Any business is always going to look out for themselves before the other person.
Something like that.
How is capitalism bad for society when it
Hold on,
gave you
we're
computers?
getting into capitalism conversation at this time, y'all. But yeah, so next one.
Dude's got an Omo shirt. What the hell?
They pick the most digestible time in history about him, and that's what they put out to us every year. If you go back and look at Martin Luther King, and it's online, the speech that he was going to do at his church that the week that he died, you would have thought that was Malcolm X. Martin Luther King was sick of getting his ass beat on. He wanted to be about finances. He was talking about some of the things that were going on in the war that nobody dared to speak about. That was the reason why they killed that man. But the version of Martin Luther King that black people love, I don't think Martin Luther King liked him when he died. If they could separate themselves, he wouldn't like that dude.
Well, that's heavy.
But it's the truth.
Well, how?
He told Harry Belafonte, I think I have integrated my people into a burning house. That's basically telling Harry Belafonte everything that I built my life on is a lie. He said that. David Banner didn't say that. And I think if you ask his kids, they would tell you that. It's just harsh to realize that we've been duped, bro. That's the hardest thing when it comes to food, history, bro. If it ain't mathematics or science, in most cases, these people done lied to us. And that's hard to admit that we went down the wrong road, bro.
So I'm trying to separate because I'm trying to follow. And specifically to Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King.
Here, I'm only going to open this up to people who actually have an opinion on this part, right? Anybody have any opinion about the Martin Luther King integration segregation thing and his conversation with Belafonte? Anybody have a thought on that or anything? Yeah, I didn't think so. I don't want to waste time on this if we didn't. Well, only thing I would say about this is he did misquote what Martin Luther King said on that one right there.
I think that a lot of people, when it comes to figures like King and a lot of people in the civil rights movement and even other movements throughout American history, they base their understanding based on one storyline that's been fed to them from wherever they got it from, and they haven't really studied it from different places. They get it from an echo chamber, and then they take that what is essentially becomes lore, and then they'll extrapolate arguments from that without actually doing the research to find out whether or not it's even accurate. They just repeat it, and then they end up with the fallacy, the appeal to the consensus. So it's, well, everyone agrees this is the case, so it's the case, without actually, researching it.
Yeah. So anybody else got anything I want to say on this topic, on this part? So yeah, I'll just say this. I mean, I think, like I said, he was misquoting what Martin Luther King said. He had a fear about it, and there's nothing wrong with having fears. Anytime you're in leadership, when you have to make tough judgment calls, whether you're a football coach or you're doing something else, there always going to be fear on both sides. You realize you gotta, sometimes you're doing things where you got to just pick the best out of the two bad options. And there's going to be fear on both sides, no matter which one it goes. I think this guy is kind of engaging. Dave Manner's engaging in revisionist history by some of the stuff that he's talking about, getting tired of getting beat up. Nobody wants to get beat up. Before you get beat up, you're tired of getting beat up. He was doing it for a specific purpose. And there's nothing that says that he regretted that decision to do what he did. So, I mean, I think, again, this is him trying to radicalize and get Black people riled up emotionally. But there's no historical justification for the stuff that he's saying here. Munoz says MLK is a Republican. The Chattering King, everyone is just going to pretend that this is normal attire. Laugh my butt off. MLK was a fool and a charlatan. MLK didn't write this stuff, and all the tinfoil people say he was a plant. Angry Casper says that. The panel verse, I mean, it is true, and they still haven't owned up to it, showing their opinions are just pretend words. Actions will never follow. All right, so yeah, so on this one, right, we can go to the next one, Enos.
The version that is in front of us, the propaganda that we see in schools and in Black History Months, and the I Have a Dream, and the monuments, and how great Martin Luther King was and what he stood for. You're saying that it's a lie?
What I am saying is, what? Here go all them endorsements, Regina. Regina said, No, bro, like, integration was the worst thing that ever happened to Black people. Being enslaved is just losing the war. Like, once we integrated, we thwarted the opportunity to teach our own children. We don't have no options on what we teach Black kids in public schools. Think about this, y'all. In a lot of public schools,
All right, cool. So for this one right here, we'll start it off. Let's move it around a little bit here. So Uncle Tiger, did you catch that? What's your, you agree, disagree? What's your thoughts?
What is the question? Integration is the worst thing that ever happened to Black people? Is that the question?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's highly debatable. On the one hand, they got freedom of association and the right to vote and all this and blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, they also sort of lost their own ability to be nationalist and create their own communities, create their own schools, create their own education, whatever they wanted to do. And instead, utilized what the white people of the time had. So it's debatable either way. I don't think it, on the one hand, you could say it's bad. On the other hand, you could say it's good. I mean, it's debatable.
Okay, and then Ty, Wicked Dream. Sorry, what about for you?
I mean, I think it's definitely debatable because from my understanding of what I know, I could be wrong, but I do believe that during segregation there were higher rates of marriage, there were higher rates of family between black families. There was a lot more community involvement. Now things you were able to do, again, that was always taken away. But I think as the core values, from my understanding, was better in the Black community during that time compared to when you were integrated. So it could be, it's really subjective to the person.
All right, about the Powder Dusty, what you got?
I think that forced integration, and by that I mean like relocating kids to different schools, I think that was the wrong way to go about it. But I think that aside from that, I think that no, integration is just fine. It gives everybody the same of everything, right? Now at this point, if you can't make it, it's on you. You're not being oppressed. You're not being segregated. It's not this. It's not that. you're just not thriving on the same playing field as the rest of everybody. So I think that integration was good. I think the way we went about it was a little bit ham-fisted.
Okay. Dane, what about for yourself? He's probably still. Yeah, so two reasons.
Of course, stays on mute.
I think integration as a concept was a good idea. I think the implementation was flawed, and I think that it needs a rework.
I think the desegregation was great. As
hold
far
on,
as
Dane, two reasons already going.
oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think that integration was the worst thing to happen to Black Americans. I think slavery was the worst thing to happen to Black Americans. But as far as what he's talking about, I think that I understand where he's going with it, but I think that the implementation is what needed to be more effective. And I think we should have had more input on how that was going to work and oversight on that to really make sure it was done correctly.
Got you. All right, Dane, it's on you.
Okay. I think desegregation is fine as far as the government not having laws and policies in place to prevent people from living wherever they can afford to live or any of that sort of stuff. But as far as like Dusty said, and I don't appreciate y'all putting me on the same side as him and agreeing, but forced integration like the busing and then that sort of stuff where it forced people to integrate, I think that was a violation of everyone's rights to one degree or another. And I think it was not very good at all for Black businesses. If I could take a moment, my grandfather was born in 1901, and I heard a lot of stories growing up about how much my mother's family loved the family that owned the dry cleaners right down the road from them, which was a Black family. They were very close and they loved them to death. But then integration comes in, and a lot of the Black people then started frequenting, for some reason, the media or the civil rights movement or whatever seemed to have convinced a lot of the Black clientele that there was something to be gained by going to the white business. And that ended up starving out a lot of the Black economy that existed at that time. So in those aspects, if you try to look at it from more layers and angles than just segregation bad, integration good, and something that shallow, and you look at all aspects, you'll find that it actually ended up damaging a lot of the Black economy. So that's kind of where I come down on it.
Yeah, so I think for me, my point on this would just be that I think in general, I mean, obviously, as T Reason said, the worst thing that happened to Black people definitely wasn't integration. It would be slavery itself. That would be definitely worse. And then you could even say Jim Crow was worse than integration. And so they wouldn't even, I don't know if it'd even make the top 5. Now, as far as integration and segregation, I think when you just look at it, we don't really have, I'm not familiar with any kind of experiment or any type of example we could look out in the world where you have, these different races that are in the same nation that are just operating pretty much separately like that, and the nation be successful. So I think that's more of like a hypothetical that we would never know if it's actually going to make any sense. I don't think it makes any sense. I can't see it make sense of it. When people make the point about Black businesses and Black people being more successful when they had their businesses, and when we integrated, a lot of Black businesses lost business. That I think that part is true, but that's a minority of the Black people. I think integration helped more Black people in general. Then maybe some of the top business owners or whatever the case may be, maybe they lost some of their business. Maybe they lost a lot of their business. Maybe they went out of business. But a lot of white establishments went out of business at that time when they would get preferential treatment as far as hiring and stuff historically. And so I think that's true, but I think just an average that, the most wealthiest Blacks live here in America, and that's due to integration. So I think that at this point in time, I think there's really I don't think there's a really legitimate debate between integration and segregation at that point. And I definitely don't think that, especially if he's a rapper, probably more white people brought his album than anybody else. So, I mean, he's benefiting from all of that at the same time. That'd be the point that I make. Anybody want to cross-examine anybody? Anybody have any points they want to make against somebody else?
I'd like to cross-examine a little bit with you, actually, Vulcan. I don't know if you call it cross-examine, but ask you to clarify.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like I was just saying to my chat here, when someone says Jim Crow, the Jim Crow era, was bad for Black people, I'm curious as to what aspects, and this is sort of a rhetorical question, I think, what are we, aspects we measure by that? Because if we're measuring the horror of Jim Crow is to include things like the Klan and lynchings and the denial of equal protection under the law and that sort of stuff, well, sure, there's a big argument to be made. But I'm wondering if we backed up and we looked at the economic status of black people during Jim Crow, and if we looked at the formation, stability, and unity of the families, the churches, and the communities of black people under Jim Crow, would we find out that maybe there were some positive things within the black community at that time compared to what we have today? So I'm just curious as to how we measure that without simply saying oppression's bad. I think most any normal person would agree oppression's bad. And it's a difficult question to ask, was Jim Crow completely bad without it sounding like you're defending racism and genocide and that sort of stuff. But
just to make sure I'm understanding your question, I almost want to have you say it again, but a little bit more concise. But I'm comparing, with David Banner's point was integration was the worst thing to happen to black people. So I'm thinking about everything that's ever happened to black people in the entire universe. And I'm going, where would I rank?
Okay.
That's how I'm taking the question.
I see. Because I would wonder could it be argued that under segregation that maybe the black community had a more solid, substantive idea of their own identity as a separate group, and that possibly when integration came and equal employment rights and equal lending rights and all sort of stuff was put in place, that is it possible that became more diluted? Which then, if that's the case, then it could be argued that come along, just a decade and a half later with the introduction of things like hip hop music, that then record producers in Hollywood could begin ascribing a cultural identity to the black culture that wasn't there in the 50s and 60s, which would include single motherhood and all of that great society stuff. That it could be argued would have the black community today in a worse place economically, socially, morally, and so forth than it actually was, say, in the 50s.
Well, I guess for me, and I'm trying to take everything you said and try to form it into an answer to the question, because a lot of different components to it. And I'm assuming you're asking me, so I'm answering. If somebody else wants to chime in at some point in time, feel free to do so. But for me, how I'm looking at it is like this. We have this thing that we've never really seen before, which will be different races under the same nation operating separately, having their own basically ecosystem, I guess, at some point in time. I don't know if the blacks would have their own power grid, I guess, at some point in time. I don't know the extent to which how far this is going to go in segregation. Are they going to have their own militia? I don't understand, but to me, it seems like that's very experimental. I don't even have a working example in the world that I can say, okay, I've seen them do that over there and it worked really well. So to me, there's nothing about that that's really sounds appealing from a historical standpoint. I don't have any word of anybody know an example of a nation that has two different races operating under the same nation, but they're operating completely separately and they're successful.
Oh, I don't necessarily mean like two nations. I'm just talking about as far as the segregation of the two communities within the same nation, with the separate schools and that sort of stuff.
Experimental, I don't know. It doesn't seem there's nothing that we can look at to say, yeah, that's a successful model. I don't see anything that says that's a successful model to get where we are today, or to get,
So, I do have a quick question. So would you say that
this is for who?
Being that this is just for you, really, I guess. So being that segregation.
Sorry, hold on. I want to make sure. I want to make sure Dane. I mean, Dane, I know you're talking to your chat right now, but Dane, did I address what you're saying on to some extent? Do I summarize?
Well, I mean, you know how I am, Vulcan. If you let me, I'll just talk the whole podcast. It'll be the Great Dane show. But it's like I asked Big Ward the Genius, also a podcaster here, but he's here in local to me where I'm at. Like I asked him in the barbershop one time. When I asked him whether he thought that his grandparents received a better education than his own children, and he didn't even have to think about it. He said, oh, my grandparents, 100%. So I wonder, when we look at that, like his grandparents that went to a segregated school and everything, I wonder if his grandparents, when you look at the living rooms and the dining room tables and such of that community, if they weren't better off as a community and even economically, being segregated versus we're going to integrate, and then we're gonna move away from the black identity and even the white identity and move into, we're all just Americans, which would then, if you really want to just take it off to the next level, we're going to introduce the Great Society and we're going to
Well, hold on,
incentivize.
just real quickly, my question was that did I properly answer your question? That was my question initially.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, it's a discussion that, I mean, it would have to be a discussion really to fully answer the question. But yeah, I just wanted to ask a question, stimulate thought, consider, see what your take on it was. But I guess we can move on.
And I mean, I don't know, Wicked, you want to ask me something too, but I mean, I would like to hear Powder Dusty, T Reason, Uncle Tiger on the point.
Yeah, I mean, it was just really like a random thought of more of.
Before we get to your random thought, I want to address the point that I was making, which is saying that to me, two different races under the same nation, we don't have anything that we can go off of to say that works. I mean, Thomas Sowell's book would say that, to have the most social mobility and to have the most, dynamic financial situation is for you to successfully assimilate into the dominant culture. That's what his research would suggest. And so that seems to go against segregation, especially when you add the violence into it and being forbidden from doing certain things. So I would just be curious to see y'all's thoughts on that. Y'all agree, disagree? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't give an example of a multicultural system that has two different cultures operating equally under one roof. I just don't see how that's possible.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. I don't see how that'd be possible long term.
I just even long term, even short term, how is that even possible? Because the minute you have two different ideas, you're automatically going to clash.
It's happening short term, it was a thing, but obviously it wasn't sustainable.
But that wasn't what they had.
But was it? But it's hard. You can't give an example because it's hard there is no possible way you can have two different ideologies on a same playing field that will act in cohesion with each other.
Real quickly, Powder Dusty, you have anything you want to say? And then Tiger next, and then T Reason.
I would agree with your take and Thomas Sowell's take. And as somebody with an economics background, I love hearing you reference Thomas Sowell. But yeah, 100%. You can't just have within one society. You can't have two different cultures operating beside each other, but not with each other. It just is going to fall apart.
All right, Uncle Tiger, what about for yourself?
Yeah, I think any ideology, economic system, whatever, religion, you name it. I think any idea can work as long as the people are homogenous or at least have a clear majority. There's a clear majority amongst the people. I think it is actually that simple.
I mean, see that the military is the best example. It doesn't get any more, synchronized and in one homogenous than the military itself, which is life and death, basically. But T Reason, you got anything you want to say about that?
Not really.
All right, and then Dane, end on you, Dane.
Well, I just would like to clarify just a little bit that what I was talking about was not because words matter. The semantics of it matter. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about two separate cultures operating in the same country. The black community and the white community were not two separate cultures. They were two subcultures of the American culture, but both of them had a Western culture. Both of them back then, by and large, were Christians, and they just went to two separate churches. They ate a lot of the same food. They listened to a lot of the same music when it came to rock and roll. I mean, black people invented rock and roll, jazz, blues. I mean, I'm not sure when we say different culture being fashion, cuisine, shared history, these sorts of things. I'm not sure how we end up with two separate cultures. There were variances, of course, but there's variances in the culture of South Alabama and South California. But that doesn't, so I'm not sure that we're talking about two separate cultures operating in the same country. I just think it's a subculture of the Western culture.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I guess whenever Wicked said culture, I just kind of took it as he meant race. You got ethnicity, you got race, you got culture, you got all different things in there. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, to be subcultures.
I guess I would say yes. It would be subculture, not actual culture itself. To clarify,
yeah,
it would definitely be a subculture, not an actual culture itself, because obviously the American culture would be what we were founded on and our basis and our principles of what we abide by. Now, obviously, inside of that culture, you would have different ways of interpreting that.
Yeah, I mean, and more importantly, I mean, the African American is an American invention. So I mean, like it doesn't exist anywhere outside of America, and they were coming from the people that had enslaved them. That's the culture they came from. Typically, really, truthfully, like a Southern culture, but that's a whole nother topic. But so yeah, let me read these comments and we'll get to the next one. Angry Casper, I've been in fights I lost for being the melanin level I am. I never saw that happen to someone with different melanin. Now try call me a liar. John Munoz says David Banner is the truth. Plus, he influenced me to get a pond for catfish. Trigger Warren, Unc changes that T to an N, and we might have a fight on our hands.
I'm changing it right now.
Crypto newbie, what is missed is what David Banner said. It's the equivalent of losing the war once. The panel verse. And now you showed my comment like always. They go and sub and unsub for my channel. Furiously thumbs up, and then the thumbs up in probably Darth Maul, Andrew's Mass Reporter. And Casper, this is like such a niche pill, and black pill, black creators. Shout out Base Pluto to be unique. Cook this topic.
That almost made sense.
I think
that was a good try, though.
So is that if that's it, Vulcan? I mean, let's go ahead and get to the next one. I thought Dane was gonna say my grandfather was born a black man, the powder dusty.
No, that was Steve Martin in The Jerk. Remember, Steve Martin. That may
the
be
way you started that story.
That's before all of y'all's time. Steve Martin in the white guy was adopted by a black family. That's a funny movie.
All right, he knows.
In a lot of colleges, they tell black men that they can't wear locks. Your natural hair. Dog, do you see that they say they can do anything to meet that they want to, put anything they want to without telling you the truth about it? Think about right now in America what black people have.
All right, so we'll go the powder dusty. You go start this off first. Yeah, what's your thoughts on what he's saying?
Okay, I think he needs to stop focusing. And I'm glad you asked me first because I want to kind of ask people. I'm watching this podcast, and I don't know who the host is with his green hamburger hat on or his outfit, but I feel like the guest is looking for racism in the wrong places. It's not the real racism that I'm seeing on this shit is that they've got this black host dressed up with an Elmo shirt on, looking like a green hamburger, being goofy as fuck. And excuse me, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss here. How can you take that? Do you guys feel? Am I the only one that feels like that's like some subtle racism right there in the production?
Nah, he dressed himself, man.
So
yeah, go ahead.
So
he dressed himself,
real quick, Dusty.
Go ahead.
Real quick, Dusty. Just to address what you're saying. So far from what I can see, he has a victim mindset. So therefore, all of his opinions are going to come from that perspective.
But what about that Elmo shirt? Like, no self-respecting grown man is dressing himself in an Elmo shirt.
Listen, if somebody wants to look like Where's Waldo, that's on them. Maybe he wants to be found.
I mean, I say that, and I'm sitting right by Dane, who looks like a whole beach ball. So I don't know.
I've kept my woman for 35 years. How long have you been divorced, Dusty?
About as long. But I got another one.
Okay, so yeah, so yeah, so I guess Wicked is on you.
All right, so for me, just to tell somebody they can't wear their hair a certain way is absolutely stupid to me. Like, what effect does that have on anything? Like, honestly, if I wear my hair up, if I wear like me at my job, it depends on whether I mean, I don't have hair to begin with because I cut my hair short. But me as the chef, it would matter what hair that you have. But going to school, and that's completely irrelevant to what that does for your education. So at the end of the day, it has no effect on whether you do good or bad in school, or anything that has to do with you as a person or who you are or anything about you at all, except for, okay, you have your hair in dreads for whatever personal reason you have, but it doesn't tell me about you or anything about you besides that you like your hair in dreads. So there's no meaning to it. So it should be irrelevant.
All right, Uncle Tiger.
Can it perhaps I'm misunderstanding? Like, what's the question? What's the matter at hand here? What am I responding
Thoughts
to?
on what he said? I don't know if you caught it or not, but just your thoughts on what he said.
About like
having your hair in dreads in school. He's talking about
dreads.
that. He's talking about that. Like, pretty much what he said is that, like, black people were being discriminated in schools because of wearing their hair in dreads and not having it like manicured, I guess you could say, for lack of better words.
Okay, is that actually what was said, or is that just Wicked's interpretation?
You could just probably skip this one, because the thing is, I don't want you to go off somebody's interpretation of it. Because I know what my angle is going to be a little bit different, because I caught other things that he said outside of that I wanted to focus on. So I don't want you to be limited to just what somebody's sharing that he mentioned. But
well, I mean, I can give my take on like dreads and tattoos and.
I guess if you want to, but if you feel so inclined. But it was more so about what he said that you found was interesting, not just on that specific topic.
Yeah, tell me what you think about tattoos, Tiger.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go off on a non sequitur. I might have misunderstood. We can move on.
We got the next one. Okay, T Reason, what about for you?
Conformity and control, man. Conformity and control. He was talking about, basically wearing his natural hair. I think you should be able to wear your natural hair as long as you're able to do the job and perform. You should be able to wear your natural hair. You shouldn't have to change anything unless it's going to impede upon your job. Like, for example, Wicked said he works in the kitchen, so obviously you don't want hair in the food. So I can understand in that regard, you know what I'm saying? But as far as, professionalism and, being punctual and all those different things, I don't think your hair plays a factor into that. So I think you should be able to wear whatever you want to wear in the discussion.
Okay, I think I have a response now. Let's
get to Dane. Dane, it's on you.
Okay. Glad to be here. My job my business that I own, that I make my normal living in, is a public facing sales job. Okay. And so in public face, well, human beings in general it's just a human nature psychology. They consider men with beards to be less trustworthy than men who are clean shaven. A lot of jobs you go into, even if it's not a public facing sales job, you're in an office, there's a dress code, and beards are not part of that dress code. When I used to work an industrial job and I worked in power plants and stuff, I had to shave for the purpose of the power plant because of different gases and chemicals in case I ever had to put on like a Scott Air Pack or something like that. My position is this: when I go to an employer and I ask them for money, they're buying my hour, or they're buying my job or my week, or whatever the pay is negotiated out, the interval. They're buying my independence, because if I was independent, I'd stay home and I'd get them to send my money to the house. So when I sell my hour to that employer, if he can tell me what clothes to wear, how to wear my hair, how to shave my face, whatever it is, because he is paying for that privilege and that influence in my life. So when we say natural hair, perhaps we need to work out the semantics on that. If I don't groom my natural hair to fit in with society, well, then it's just going to get longer and longer and bushier and mattier and stuff like that. I'm not a hairdresser or a barber, so maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I think that black people, if they don't trim their hair or whatever, it just gets bigger and curlier into basically like the afros of the 1970s or whatever. Okay? The dreadlocks is not necessarily the natural growth of the hair, for that matter. But so beyond that, I would like to hear an objective argument. We don't have time for it, I'm sure, but I'd love to get into it, of how we would show objectively that there's something moral about being allowed to have your natural hair, or immoral about telling someone to cut their hair a certain way, or wash their hair a certain way, or dress a certain way, or whatever. What is it that somehow or another is so moral about allowing people to just be who they naturally are on a job?
Yeah.
With a school, you apply to go to a school, you choose that school because they have a lot to offer you, the educational level, the prestige, that sort of stuff that's going to benefit you probably the rest of your life. You're going to them, asking them permission, asking them to, hey, will you educate me? I mean, the leverage is on their end. If they have a dress code, I don't see what's so moral about allowing people to dress how they want and whatever when they're coming to you asking you to do a transaction with them.
Got you. Yeah, and so for me, what he said is I want to focus on the fact that I think a lot of this is like a lot of what he's saying is just sophistry, because you see him. He starts off with the locks. You can't wear your natural hair, and like as Dane said, our hair doesn't lock up like you would see a stylish version of it if we let our hair grow. I mean, there's going to be some lock in there, but it's probably not going to be aesthetically pleasing to most people. And so it's not natural. It's not necessarily your natural. There's some natural in there, but more importantly, then he throws in there about they're putting stuff in the meat that we don't know about. So, and that's my issue with a lot of these things here is that he's racial. Then he throws something that's not racial. It's more corporations and greed and stuff like that. And then he goes back to racial again. And I just don't want the audience to be misled by this shifty-handed nature of his eloquence of words. It's just they'll throw in a little bit of truth here and there to mix in with the whole lie that they're trying to sell you. And I think that's what you see what he's doing here. Now, as far as the lock thing, I think it's already been said pretty well. But now that I've said all that point, anybody want to cross-examine? Anybody disagree?
I do have a question for Dane.
Okay, but real quickly, is it a disagreement or anything? Or
I guess it would be kind of a disagreement.
Okay, well, yeah, go ahead.
Because he's talking about, well, it's the school and they have these rules and this and that, and what's the delineation? I guess between the two, what he was saying is, I guess because when you're going to a school, you are paying them, and you're on your own education, and you're trying to learn for yourself, and you're trying to better yourself. Compared to a business where they are paying you and you have to follow their rules. So I think the fact that one you're paying for to the fact that another is paying you, I guess would be the delineation between the two.
You agree with that, Dane? Or
no, I think that what he's saying can be true to a certain extent if you're talking about going to a community college or a trade school, both of which I've been to. When you start looking at going to different universities, the higher up the ladder you go, from, say, a community college all the way up to Ivy League, you choose those schools because they have track records and histories and a lineage, an academic genealogy. And you're saying, if I can get my degree from University of Alabama, well, that's better than the University of South Alabama, even though South Alabama's a good school or whatever, generally speaking. If I can get my degree in this from Harvard, that's better probably than University of Alabama. You choose those schools because they have a lot to offer you. And so when you go to that, you might say, well, I'm going to be an Alabama man, if there's any such of a thing at the University of Alabama. I'm going to be I'm going to be a Roll Tide fan. I got my degree at Alabama. You're wanting the history and the heritage of that university to be passed on to you so that when you put on your resume, University of Alabama, people can say, hey, chances are very likely I can expect this standard of education and training from him. So it's not like going to public school where you just show up and the public school's a public school. You're picking that university because you want what they have to offer.
So do you think, Wicked, you able to respond to that now?
So I got a little rebuttal to that. Okay, so if you want to bring in the trade school, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my example I used before. In the trade school, there are certain rules and regulations that are abided to that trade. Example, me as a chef, I can't have long nails, I can't wear jewelry, your hair can only be a certain length, your beard can only be a certain length. So therefore, you have to abide by that. But the schools that he was talking about were bigger schools where your hair doesn't matter.
Can you hear me, Wicked? Can you state to the audience and the panel what the disagreement is, what he's saying? The disagreement is in the part where he brought up trade schools and having to be, your hair, about this and that, which I would agree with because again, I'm not hearing it yet. Like, can you state like the disagreement is Dane is making this point right here. This is what Dane is saying.
So I would agree with the point. Yeah, I would agree with the point where Dane said that your hair shouldn't matter in a trade school. So when it comes to trade school, I believe your hair should matter because there are different trades where it does. If you're a mechanic, if you're a chef, if there's different things where certain criterias of your body, your nails, your jewelry, your wear, the way you dress matter because it could affect the job. But if you're going to a school, which is like he was talking about in the example of where these schools were not allowing people to have dreads in their hair, those were just regular schools where your hairstyle has nothing to do with the criteria of what you're going for.
How do you know
Again,
that?
because in the schools it was more of a regular Ivy League school, not a trade school. Trade schools are more
No,
specific to where you
he
can't
didn't say
have.
that. He did not
Well,
say what type of school. When I said trade school, I
but
was
no,
just
but
giving
the
you an example.
example.
What I was giving when I mentioned a trade school, I think you're distracted by shiny things when you're stuck on trade school. When I said trade school, I was just creating a ladder of academia from learning how to weld to learning how to do physics. And so I was saying whether you're in trade school or a community college and then like a state university or an Ivy, all I was
Right.
doing was illustrating the ladder in academia. But as far as what kind of school the guy in the video was talking about, you and I neither one know what kind of school he was talking about. He could have
Well, I
been
do
talking
because
about
I
any
no no
kind of
no no
school.
I do because I remember that story that he was talking about, and that story about the kid with the school, that was not a trade school. That was just a regular
Okay.
college.
That's aside
That's
from
the only reason.
my greater point is that when you choose a school, you choose that school by and large because you want the kind of education and reputation, heritage that school has to offer you. And
And
so
I'm
my
not
point,
disagreeing with
my
that point.
point, my point, my point is that when you go to that school, you're not just hiring someone to mow your grass or wash your car. You're asking them to enroll you in that school and pass on whatever that educational heritage and legacy is to you. And so to do that, that school has to protect their reputation. In order to do that, they have the power to set certain standards for what people who go through their school look like, talk like, walk like, act
Hold on,
like.
I think we got your point, Dan, on that
Okay,
one.
so are you saying it's more of a image issue?
Hold on, Wicked. That's one that's right here. Is there anything what Dane just said that you disagree with?
So so what I think I can interpret what he's coming from now. I think he's talking more of here's a school and this is the image that we want, so you have to follow by this image, which I can definitely understand what he's saying by there.
You understand,
But
do you disagree with it at all? Like, do you disagree with his point on that?
I mean, I can agree with it, and I mean, I disagree with it because I don't think that the style of your hair affects the image of the school if you can produce what the image is. You know what I mean? But I also do think that, like, you should be able to wear your hair, like I said. But if they have this, okay, here's our standards, and that's their standards, they're allowed to do that because it's their school. You know what I mean? It's what they want to set the standards as. It's like, if you join a fraternity, you have to follow these standards and these rules if you want to be in that. So I get both sides.
I want to give a chance to Powder Dusty. I think you had a point you wanted to bring in. Waiting on it.
Yeah, I think that Wicked Dream just kind of touched on what I was going at. Is that this is really a matter about freedom of association, right? I have the right to not have you at my school, just like you have the right to not go to my school. If you do come to my school or my job, then I have the right to set the terms of you being there, and I don't give a fuck. Sorry, am I allowed to do that?
No,
not really.
Okay.
Just Dusty. If I can speak your language just a minute, Vulcans, it's a lot more of a controlled structure, non-blood sport. But I will come on your stream next time you're live, and we can cuss each other out.
I knew that we were friends.
Nobody
okay,
said that.
Yeah, but let me just complete the thought. It doesn't matter if this is your natural hair. If I show up smelling and say this is my natural smell, what's it matter? We're all nasty balls of filth naturally. We do things to kemp that so that we're not offensive to the people around us. That's just a simple standard. So I don't care. The whole it's my natural hair thing doesn't carry anyway with me.
Got you. All right, cool. So ready for the next one? That was a good one, fellas. Thanks for that.
But what I'm saying is that even within that, man, like, I give you a great example. I told you, bro, if I had any power in the spaces that I wanted, it's coming. But like, bro, I would make you the Black Superman, bro. Like, period, dog. I don't want there to ever be a period where our children don't think that they're gods or that they're superheroes. Like, think about this. This is gonna mess y'all head up. A real superhero.
Hold on, he knows it should be like 29:35, right?
Is a god.
29:35. $29.35. There you go. 29:20 is fine. Yeah, there you go.
Black kids in public schools, Think about this, y'all. In a lot of public schools, in a lot of colleges, they tell black men that they can't wear locks. You're a natural. Dog, do you see that they say they can do anything to meet that they want to, put anything they want to without telling you the truth about it? Think about right now in America, what black people have influence over what happens to their children in general. What they feed them, what they see on TV, what they hear on the radio, any of those things. So by integrating, by even saying that you want civil rights, take the word, the operative part of the word is civil, right? You're saying that I just want you to treat me civilly, right? And anything that you do in life, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna make 100, right? Even if you're great. So if you fall short of civil, that means they treat a dog better than they treat you. I don't want civil rights. I want you to treat me like the God that I am. And so what I'm saying is that they take pieces of a person. Like they couldn't stop Malcolm X, so what they made him was an X on a hat. The same thing that they did to Jesus in Christmas. They took Christ out of Christmas and put an X. These are the mind games that we don't see. And to be honest with you, as our friendship grows, these are the types of things that keep me up at night, Cam, because I see it. And it's so clear.
So you would have wanted segregation to stay segregated?
Well, I would have wanted black people to build their own shit. I would have wanted black people to praise their own God.
Okay.
I would want black people to teach their own kids. I'm not saying that we can't be together, but would you respect somebody who you allowed to stay in your house, whether you forced them to stay there or not? And what, they've been staying there for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, 100 years? It's time for us to get our own. If we have our own, then we don't have to beg for anything. Like,
or the ability to create your own. Because I think that's a lot of suppression too that's not being mentioned, especially going back to slavery. It's not to say that we couldn't have our own. We didn't have the rights to have our own. You know what I'm saying?
But what I'm saying is that even within that, man, like I give you a great example.
All right, so yeah, so we'll go ahead. The powder Dusty, go ahead and kick this one off too. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just think that like these dudes are not responsible for themselves. That's all I hear is them blaming segregation or integration for what they claim is black people not being able to have their own things or build their own things. However, I'm pretty sure both of these two men are doing fine, right? They look like they're probably working for themselves. So I don't know what the complaint is, honestly. It seems like complaining just to complain about things.
Gotcha. Okay. Uncle Tiger.
Yeah, I mean, if black people want the ability to create their own educational system, they have that ability. I mean, what I don't understand the issue that they can have their own schools, they can do whatever they want. I mean, nothing is keeping black people from being nationalist, from being like, identitarian. Nothing is stopping them from doing that. So,
Gotcha. Okay, T Reason, over for yourself.
We did talk about this one on the last pod. I think it's kind of overlapping at this point because we did review this. I remember seeing these exact ones. But at the same time, I understand what he's trying to say. I think he could probably articulate it a little bit better, so it can be more up to date with what we're looking at right now. But obviously, what he's talking about is confidence. When he's talking about he want to be viewed as a god or a superhero, he's talking about instilling values in a child from a child's mind perspective when they see superheroes and different things like that. Somebody they can look up to. And when they look in the mirror, what they see, you know what I mean? A lot of times, the black community is vilified and we're looked at as the aggressor. You got people locking their door, in passing in their car, or, they may go to the other side of the sidewalk when you're passing them or clutch their purse and stuff like that. So I think he's kind of speaking to that a little bit. And obviously, a lot of guys on the panel, they want to say, you just pick yourself up by your bootstraps. You got the same opportunities I have. You can do the same things I can do, and that's what we typically hear. And that's typically the response I expect to get.
Gotcha. Okay. Wicked Dreams. How about for yourself?
So for me, I think that if we were to go back in time, what he said has a lot of valid points, but in today's time, I believe everybody has enough opportunity, no matter what your skin color is or who you are, to do better for yourself. That really just depends on yourself. But if we were to talk about, in the times where he was, then he does have points. But in today's time, I don't think that point is valid.
Gotcha. Okay. And then Dane, how about for yourself, Dane?
My. I don't. I'm gonna have to stop because I sent P Dusty the link for him to come on panel, and now I'm regretting it because I don't know how to act when I'm agreeing with him. It's almost as bad as when I agree with T Reason.
Oh, you
But
Dusty
yeah,
too, man.
Keep
2
acting
minutes.
like you're straight.
Dude, I think all three of you are best friends tonight.
Excuse me, y'all grown folk talking. But anyway, so I, in a sense, I agree with David Bannon that black people as a whole, they should, build their own stuff, build their own businesses. That's part of what I was touching on about the pre-integration sort of time when that existed. I won't pull out I got on my slush puppy hat. But I got my tinfoil hat if you want me to put it on. I think the state of the situation now is because of a governmental psyop and that sort of stuff to injure the black family, the black community, the black economy. But I'm all for anybody, whatever color or group affiliation collective, get busy. That's the masculine mindset is I'm a man, I'm gonna take care of myself, I'm gonna build for myself, and if I fail by myself. The problem that I have with David Bannon is that he ends up kind of conditioning that on the collective. And that's when you get into that femininity. Oh, we're the group. We need to do this as a group ourselves. When the men just need to stand up and chart a course and say, I'm moving in this direction, and anyone who wants to follow me can follow with me. That's the way it should be done, and that's the whole thing of black people need to build their own. I think people need to build their own. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think for me, again, there's a lot of sophistry involved with what he's talking about here, and I wanted to cover this video because I don't want people to be misled by what he's saying. And part of it is when he's talking about black people need to have their own gods. It's just really sad because what does that even mean? If you're talking about black people from Africa, there was all type of different spiritualities going on. Which one are you referring to? And anybody who understands how civilizations are built, the more homogenous they are, the better chance they are to survive. The stronger the culture, the stronger the family is going to be, the more they're able to do commerce together and have shared common values. So if you got a bunch of black people with a bunch of different spiritualities coming up here, that's why those civilizations don't thrive. The monotheistic societies thrive the best. That's why that's what you see in the most powerful countries in the world. They're monotheistic. And then the ones who weren't necessarily, they kind of learned it from the more monotheistic ones, and now they're able to compete. So I think he just really doesn't understand how societies are being built and how that happens. And I think what he's doing is just an appeal to emotions, have their own God. And then he dodged the question. He asked them, are you saying that integration was worse than segregation? Something like that. He just dodged it and said, I'm saying that black people should have just taught their own kids and did this and did that. So I think he just dodged the question after he just finished saying that integration was the worst thing that happened to black people. And then Cam wanted him to actually expound upon that some more, and he dodged it and just went to something else. But I do think there's some good points. I think there's some good points on what he's talking about. I think that, like Dane has pointed out, a lot of people point out, we should, people should do for themselves. And there is a community within a community, within a community, within a community, obviously. Anybody's been to Jewish areas, Asian areas, all kind of different stuff, you're going to see that. And you do want to have strong communities that people have similar morals and similar values and similar religious views and stuff like that. So that's important. And I do think that one thing to talk about is the black dollar circulating in the black community longer, which would strengthen the community. And I do agree with things of that nature. But I think we got to understand that what David Banner's talking about is it's mainly sophistry because he didn't have anything that he's using to back up what he's saying. It's just do for yourself, have your own. What does that even mean? What does that teach your own kids? Homeschool, we're talking about a homeschool, we're talking about a charter school, we're talking about, the parents teaching the kids at home. He's not really saying a whole lot. And that's my issue with a lot of these guys on the internet is that they stay very surface level. They never go more than an inch deep, but they can sound very sophisticated and intelligent because they can just hop around with random information and just try to tie it all together in very loose ways that keep them from having to be, like you see Cam trying to ask him a direct question. He's able to dodge it. He doesn't, sit anywhere long enough to where you can really see where he is on that. And so I just want people to hear the sophistry that he's communicating here and guard yourself against stuff like that. That's the point that I'll make. Go ahead, Dane.
He's essentially the Joel Osteen of sociological issues, right? Just rattling off a whole bunch of ideas and that sort of thing. And I mean, I'm interested to know how much of his own dollars he's reached in his pocket and spent to establish these schools and help people open up their own businesses and build their own stuff. How many checks he's written to actually help out in those situations.
I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like a bunch of politician ideas. It sounds like he's doing a lot of pandering without giving any actions that can result in actual change.
Yeah. So real quickly, y'all, good point. We got some comments here. I'm gonna go through these comments real quick. So we got John Munoz saying, Dane, Chad is a bunch of virgins living in their mother's basement.
That's 2 people. I got 2 people in my chat.
Arctic Timber says, Indian nations within America are their own nation within a nation. Munoz says, with an economic background, what's your bank statement looking like at Power Girl?
I'm not going to answer that.
Orthodox guy, yes, you can. America pre-1965 had multicultural system and economics were town and county based. Panel verse, couldn't help it flow for old time's sake. Man, you should see some places I go now. Some rough chat is. LOL with buddy, always remember to have fun. John the Munoz, words matter. Dang, so is your high blood pressure.
My blood pressure is very medicated.
Angry Casper, unironically, if blacks did what reds did, they would have the same outcomes. And if you fair and neutral blacks have better outcomes. Furthermore, everyone forgets about Asians in the USA. His accent is fake. Angry Casper, and a huge fact that DI will fix all this. Whites will be a minority, and then you guys can show us how it was meant to be done. Angry Casper, you think whites will expect blacks to die at a higher number than them to liberate them when the time comes? Gorilla Biscuits, oh snap, Wicked is there. He's a chef, you know. The Revenant. The UK, that poor kid stabbed police talk with the murderer while he bled out. Them took the murderer to get food, his choice. It's not easy to read these comments. Jonathan Munoz. Dane, Luke said they have a guy would report you for bad language on Call of Duty.
No idea what that means either.
All right, that's it for the comments. All right, we go to the next one. Oh, so if anybody have any cross-examination they want to do on the last topic we were just covering? As far
if I could say something real quick, Vulcan, you talking about schools. When a certain political segment says, okay, y'all, we need to do school vouchers so that the money goes with the kid and not with the neighborhood or whatever, school vouchers, typically people that I'm assuming is on David Bannon's political persuasion jump up and down and say racism, racism, racism. We can't do that. That's oppressive. But something like free school choice would give those parents an opportunity to seek out better school education opportunities for their children. But when it's brought up, because it's usually brought up by the right, it's usually labeled as, oh, that's racism, and they don't want to do it. But that would really help a lot of black parents with their black children.
A lot of people have expressed that perspective on that. Anybody have any cross-examines they want to do on this topic? If we go to the next one. Anybody disagree?
I would just like to cross-examine David Bannon versus David Banner.
Oh yeah.
David Bannon.
Yeah. All right,
Realize that it is important for me to do for me, and those who see it can come along. Those who don't have to suffer, and they will suffer until they see if my way is the right way. It's the way to go. But Cam, it's the history why everybody's scared, and why so many wild things is happening in the world. If we had our shit together, it wouldn't take but a couple of us to put our money together, bro. We can go buy and do anything. We can go buy up Ghana. We can go any of these places, buy land here. We can go back to Mississippi.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Point blank period.
Mm-hmm.
No sugar coat, no nothing. Are you a racist?
Am I a racist? No. You have to have power in order to be a racist. I may be a bigot. I mean, I might be that if you want to call me something. I'm not, but I'm just saying what people won't tell you about the word racist is, in order for you to be a racist, I can't stop white people from shopping at no grocery store, can I? I can't stop them from going to no club or no school, can I? I can't be racist. I don't have no fucking power. You can't be black and be racist if you know the true root of the word. I study every day of my life. There's no way black people can be racist. Now, if you want to look at the word racist in the way that most people think of it, which I don't, Mark said, and he said he doesn't have a problem people's racism. He has a problem with black people's racism. If we thought of ourselves and put ourselves first the way that they do, then we would be just fine. But we put everybody before we put ourselves.
Okay. Tiger's not here right here, so we'll go. Oh yeah, Tiger. What's your thoughts on that?
Go around. Don't.
Okay.
Yeah, go around.
Wicked, what you got?
I mean, my key point in that whole entire conversation was when he said to me that if you look up the way that everybody says the word, what the meaning of the word racist is, I don't agree to that term. I use this term. So what he's telling me is that I don't care what the real definition is. I'm going to use my own definition to prove my point.
Got you. Okay. And then the Powder Dusty, what you got?
Sort of similar to Wicked. I think that it's goofy that people bring proprietary definitions, and the new one for racism is one that ironically allows for racism. Also, on that point, I would ask, what exactly is the power that white people have that black people don't?
Okay. All right, Uncle
They
Tiger.
control the rules of Monopoly board. That's the power.
They don't control.
Well,
Which
I know
one's
T-Reason will have his point on there. We're gonna get to you. I guess go ahead, T-Reason. You go next then.
We went over this one as well on the previous podcast. I'm gonna just kind of say what I said again to what he was saying. He's speaking about systematic racism. I mean, I think when he says racism, he's clearly wrong. But I think when he says systematic racism, he might have a point as far as to what he's talking about. You know, he kind of made himself look bad when he said, I know the definition of racism, when he really doesn't know the definition of racism, because it's like, bro, you kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But when you talk about systematic racism, structured racism, laws, and, you know, governance and different things like that, when that comes into play and you see the history of America, you see black people have been at a deficit, and we're still at a deficit. You know, we closed the gap in some ways, but it's still a long way before the playing field ever gets leveled. And I think that's why they hate Obama so much, because he did a good job of leveling the playing field and eliminating a lot of racial discrimination that we face in this country. And I think that's why Trump came to power, because he kind of off-kiltered that balance. That's why he attacked DEI. That's why he attacked a lot of programs. And that's why you see states getting gerrymandered to the point to where it's only going to go one way. You see what I'm saying? So in some way, shape, or form, we make progress as a nation, and then we backtrack, and then we regress, and then we change laws that we put in place for specific reasons. Now the implementations can be flawed, but instead of scrapping the program, I think we need to restructure, and I think that's what he's trying to speak to. He just doesn't know how exactly to go about it because he hasn't been challenged on his views enough.
Can I respond to him?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned DEI in there. Those sort of programs that are written into law is a good example of systematic racism against white men specifically. Now, I'll ask again, what is a specific example of white people having power over black people that black people don't have over white people?
For example, when you apply for a bank loan and you have the exact same credit score, credit profile, and because you're African American, your application is denied, and because you're Caucasian, your application is approved.
I'm glad that you brought up that example. I was a bank loan officer for 10 years. I can tell you that has not happened in decades. That is so illegal. In fact, the opposite is true. If you're going to turn down somebody with a black sounding name, first of all, the loan applications don't ask you about your race on there. So the loan officer doesn't know what race you are. But if the name looks black, you better make sure that you have a good reason. You better make sure, hold on, let me finish. You better make sure that you have a better reason for turning down a black sounding name than if you've got one that's like Dane.
They've proven this many times. And if you go back to the history of Austin, you can look and see where people, when they bought and sold their houses, they would write into the deed that their home couldn't be sold to a black person of color.
That's illegal.
50 years ago.
Hold on.
Yes, but even still,
That's illegal.
even still, the dominance is there. That once the monopoly.
T-Reason, real quickly, just want to make sure you understand, because he was saying that hasn't been the case for decades. So I think y'all are agreeing that it was definitely a time when it was the case. Are you disagreeing that it's something that's current, or where are you at on that part?
I'm disagreeing with the fact that the effects don't still have implications on today.
implications.
Just because, okay, now it's it's illegal and you can't do it, doesn't mean that it hasn't been done long enough to where we're still dealing with the damage that was done because of that. So now it's like, now it's all fair, but we didn't already ate all the pie. So it's like me inviting you guys to a party, right? And I say, well, whoever, we're gonna have pizza and we're gonna have pie, and then you show up and you're hungry as hell because you thought I had pie and pizza, but 10 people got here before you, and now there's no pie and pizza on the table for you. How are you gonna feel as a person that I say, well, you should go eat, go get
that example? I know that you're not telling me that. Yeah, so I know you're not telling me that there's no houses available. There's houses everywhere available. And there's more being sold every day. And in fact, what you keep illustrating is that the opposite is true. We now have a systematic overcorrection. Every single bank branch, not every single bank, every single branch. You can try this tomorrow. Walk into any bank branch and ask to see their CRA file. It's called a Community Reinvestment Act file. And every branch has to keep this publicly available file that anybody can demand at any time that demonstrates that they're not redlining. You not only can't redline, you have to proactively demonstrate at every branch level that you're not doing it, and it's publicly available information.
Well, one thing I will say real quick, that my understanding of it is, and I don't know if this is still the case, but when I looked it up a couple years ago, that black banks tend to turn down black applicants at a higher rate than even the white financial institutions do. That's my understanding. There's only 40 to 50 of them total, but
when you're dealing with lending, I'm not a lender. I am a real estate agent, but so P. Dusty may clarify, give what I'm about to say, and focus a little bit more. When you're dealing with lending, there are so many moving parts to a loan approval, from application to closing, so many moving parts. I've heard this claim about black homes appraising lower, but when you begin to look at the details, there's more to the story. I've heard the claim about black people getting turned down when they have the same credit as a white person. That information is protected under privacy law, so I don't know how these people actually know the depth on that. Redlining was never really about, maybe in exceptions, but it was never really about the race of the buyer. It was the location of the property. So they would draw a red line or whatever around certain neighborhoods, and they didn't want to invest in those neighborhoods because of the appraisal, property values, that sort of stuff. So if a white person wanted to buy a home in a red line district, they still didn't get the mortgage approved. It wasn't trying to keep black people or any other minorities from getting a mortgage. It was because the bank didn't want to risk their money on that house. And that's just the way that it was, but it gets put out in the media. This is what happened, and this is why it happened. And people, when they hear something, it's not just T-reason. I mean, a lot of people on my side of the spectrum do the same thing. And when I say spectrum, I don't mean autism. I mean the political spectrum. But on my side of the political spectrum, they do the same thing. They have that confirmation bias. And when they hear that information, it makes them feel good about their beliefs, and they just start parroting it. I compare them to the seagulls in Finding Nemo on the pier there. They just go, mine, and they don't really dig into it.
Yeah, T-Reason, did you want to address anything that's been said?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of examples of black people trying to put their house on the market to sell their house, and they can't sell their house, or they get a low appraisal. So what they do is they'll get the appraisal as themselves, and they'll get a low number. So then they'll have a white person put that same house up for an appraisal, and they'll get a much higher appraisal for the same home in the same neighborhood with the same conditions. And you look at that happen so many times. And then
why do you believe that's true?
Well, let me before you.
It's not whether I believe it's true. It's been proven.
Hold on.
I'm asking you, where was it proven?
Yeah. Well, hold on real quick, y'all. I just want to say this real quick because I don't want to, major on the minors here. We can say there's 3 different categories. Does it happen at all? Is it happening often enough that it warrants a conversation? It doesn't happen all the time. You see what I'm saying? I mean, so if y'all don't mind, which one are we saying here?
It happens enough.
I don't think it happens.
He's saying it happens enough. The powder
enough is not
on that. You think it's happening all the time? It never happens, or it's not happening.
I mean, and there's always the outlier, right? There's always, sure, maybe something happened one time. I think it's far from proven. Dane worked in real estate. I did lending, and we're both telling you that's not happening. That's not how
But
it's against.
T-Reason
It's
has
against the
Google.
banks. It's against the bank's interest. It's against
You
the
have Google
client's
too.
interest. It's against the real estate agent's interest. It's against it's against everybody's interest for this sort of racism to seep in just to affect black property owners.
Well, I will
It's
say this. I will
indeed.
say this. And to T Reason's point, there's this very common thing in black culture, and I don't know about other cultures, but like I know my uncle had a similar situation where he was advised to he actually did it in steps. He talks about it all the time about how he'd take anything that was ethnic off his walls and change the families that was on there. Other people in my family have done the same thing. Now I don't know if that's real or it's contrived, but it's definitely it's big enough of a deal to where people are making decisions based off of it in a regular basis.
It is a standard course of practice for any listing agent like myself. When you sit down with a seller and you're telling them how to get their home prepped, you tell them you're fixing to move anyway. Go ahead and pack up your family photos. Go ahead and pack up everything that personalizes this home, because when people walk in to look at it, you want them to be able to see it as their future home and picture themselves in it, not that they're moving into somebody else's house. I tell that to all of my sellers, whether they're black, white, yellow, or green. When an appraiser walks in, I usually get pre-listing appraisals done for my listings. And so when an appraiser walks in, he's giving his best guess value for that home based on market forces. I've had appraisers come in that the buyer hires. If he's smart, he'll hire his own appraiser, and that appraiser's value be so far off from my listing appraisal that we couldn't even get the deal closed. Why? Because you're dealing with people's educated guess. But if you're looking for, well, this white person down the street, I can't tell you how many sellers I've argued with who would say, well, Bob's house down the street is, quote, just like mine. They're not in the real estate industry, so they don't know if it is or not market wide. Just like mine, it just sold for $350, and but mine's got granite countertops and a pool, so it ought to be at least $375. And you can show them all the data you want. It won't convince some of these people.
Well,
So,
I guess on this,
That definitely makes sense.
This is not something that's going to be quantifiable as far as like people listing their homes and getting people to want to come take a look at it and being based off race. This is not one of those areas where it's going to be really quantifiable, I'm assuming. Is that accurate?
Well, it's just that there's so many moving parts that people come into it and they look at it with their own biases when they interpret that data. And what I'm saying is, I never thought I'd be saying it with P. Dusty, but within this panel, he's the expert on lending, and I'm the expert on listing and selling and getting deals closed with lenders or whatever. So I'm not sure how somebody with a Google that can rattle off, well, this happens because I saw it on Google, how their opinion really has anywhere near the same substance. Because it's like people who say there's a gender wage gap.
You're not in every single city.
I'm in more than you're in. I'm in more than you're in. I'm in more than you're in.
No, you're not.
How many real estate deals have you ever taken from listing to closing?
That's not what we're talking about here. That's from your scope.
Right. I'm involved a lot more than you.
I don't see if
I can say this, if I can land my plane real quick, can I land my plane, Vulcan? Can I land my plane?
Let me say this real quick, because I know the Powder Dusty had a point.
Hold on, you asked me a question and then you want to keep moving it.
Yeah, well, so real quickly, because I just want to see if we're on something that's actually we can have a good conversation and maybe even debate about. Which aspect of are we talking about? We're talking about the what's the banks doing. We're talking about what the real estate agents, the loan officers are doing. We're talking about what the potential homeowners are doing. What are we at on the conversation here?
I'm talking about the market as a whole myself.
And T Reason, is there certain, because T Reasons is the opposite end of this. Again, as a 1 versus 2 at least. I'm just trying to say, T Reason, what is it that what's important for you in this conversation?
So basically, he's saying that his scope covers the entire market. That everything because he experiences.
I haven't said that.
If I don't see it happening, if I don't see people putting their houses on the market and getting a lower valuation, then it doesn't exist.
I haven't said
He's
that
saying,
either.
well, whenever I have someone put their home on the market, I tell them to remove all the pictures and fixtures so that way no one can identify whether it's a black person or a white person.
That's not what I said either. You're just misquoting me.
Connection. No, that's what you said.
Okay, but
I did not say anything about that sort.
What you do,
that wasn't what I said.
Happen. You're saying what you're doing and what you're seeing from your small sample size, which does not represent America. It
It's
represents
bigger than your
small
sample
market.
size.
No, it's not. You have a much smaller market than me. You're in a much smaller.
How do you know what
city
size
than me.
my market is?
Your
What
market is
volume was
Mobile,
sold in my
Alabama.
market last year?
Is your market Mobile, Alabama?
I'm asking you what
Well,
volume was
is your
sold in
market
my.
Mobile, Alabama? Yes or no?
I'm asking you, making a claim.
I'm asking you a yes or no question right now, and you're not giving me an answer.
I
My
get so
market
Because you know
actually
the
covers.
answer. Because you know the answer, and I know the answer.
You know, you don't know the
Well,
answer.
answer it then.
well with this
My
thing right
market
here.
covers South Mississippi and South Alabama. Market is both.
Okay, so real quickly, I think we've covered enough on this part right here because I don't hear T Reason. You're not saying that you have some type of quantifiable evidence that it's happening more than what they're saying it's happening, right?
Like so to me, from what I hear is, I think just Dana's just trying to make a separate point of like there could be reasons on why, you know, some people might not be, because they're saying clean up your home. So to give an example of what Dana's saying is, if you have a modified car and you go to try to sell that car, you would get less money for it than if you were to return it back to stock.
I get all that, but
Yeah,
I'm not
I
saying,
think everybody's
I'm
on the
not
same
using
page
that
about that.
caveat. I'm saying
No.
apples to apples. I'm not saying apples to oranges, which is what you guys are saying. You guys are saying, well, if you have a stock car versus an aftermarket and you have a stock home versus a souped up home, I'm saying a home that is of similar value. I'm saying you have a home get put on the market and you have
But
this
the thing is,
exact
are you
home.
prepared to be able to prove that right now, T? Like I get the example, and I said
I've seen it proven.
I've
seen
had
it
people
proven.
tell me very
I've seen
similar
it proven.
ideas, but I'm
I've
saying
seen it proven.
you're not able to
I've-
demonstrate what you've seen.
I've
I'm assuming
seen
on
many.
well, T.
But
Reason,
can you
I know
demonstrate it?
Are you able to demonstrate it to have a debate about it right now? Is what I'm asking.
I'll tell you what, we'll debate this exact same topic the next time we have this pod.
All right, sounds
We'll
good.
debate
In
this
other words,
exact
right
same
now
thing.
you're talking out of your butt.
No, I'm not.
In other words, right now
I'm
you're
not.
just talking
I have
out
a
of your
whole
butt.
bunch of them that I can think of, but I can't literally tell you the exact person's name. I'm not good with remembering the people's names involved.
Yeah,
But
and even if
it's already made the news many times with different examples. So if you
Made the
never saw that,
news. Made the
exactly,
news
that's
doesn't
why I
mean it's
said the
true.
next time.
No,
That's why I said
So yeah, I want to go ahead and end on Tiger. Yeah, I know you had passed
that's
it
why I
around.
said the next time we have this conversation, I will show you those news clips of actual situations, real world situations.
We got it. You're
News clips.
gonna have it next time. Got it. Appreciate it. Tiger.
News clip, sure.
We end on your comment on this particular one. Tiger, what you got?
Oh, I'm good. I missed way too much of this during, but move on. You guys, please move on. Don't let me belabor it.
Okay. All right. Next one he knows. Okay, Grid Motorsport. Folks, please donate to Flo to show appreciation for his suffering through this nonsense.
Thank you, Grid One.
Casper, knowing versus understanding how you catch idiots. How you can catch idiots. John Munoz. T Reason looks like the type of coach that will beat your kid when you're not looking.
What kind of coach does Dane look like?
I don't look like a coach. I'm 325 pounds,
Exactly
man.
my point.
So mean
I might carry a coach purse.
Morons. I'm racist against morons.
You talking about Dane?
Angry Casper, dude needs to learn per capita. I guess we're done right there. Okay. So yeah, so next one we got,
Can I thank Ike? I got a big dono for Mike.
Yeah. Did you hear Vulcan? Did you hear him, Vulcan?
I didn't hear it.
P.
I got a big super chat from Ike OG.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's streaming on his channel too. He was asking if he could just recognize his super chatter.
Oh, yeah, go. Yeah, do you think?
Ike, thank you for the $100. He says Nanja fatigue. Thank you, Ike.
Yes, sir. All right, put that comment back up, Oh, yeah, well, Nanja fatigue.
Man.
Yeah, that's big.
P dusted by a dinner for all of us.
You get no reparations, sir.
Yeah. All right, Justin, while playing the devil's advocate here, when do you allow the meaning of words to expand? The word gay didn't start off meaning same sex. Is getting caught up on a new meaning being applied to the term, just dodging the real point.
Good point. W point.
All right, got anything else he knows? All right, we can get back into it.
In anything, dude. So maybe we should be.
Do you have relationships, partnerships, alignment of other cultures outside of?
Fuck yeah. Okay. Dude, let me tell you something. When I hire, I look for Black people first. But the real truth is I need the most qualified people. The company is Black because I'm Black. I'm able to hire who and what I want to by the success of the company. I don't really give a fuck who works. Is to be around my people. But we have to be successful first. That was part of the problem with my career. Every time I was close, bro, I would go off and try to save the world. You know, I'll give you a great example. You know, people talk about all the things that I did for Katrina and you know, how admirable of a man I was. And I did, they say arguably the biggest urban relief concert in history for Katrina. But guess what I ended up finding out? Yeah, we raised right around $1 million. Katrina was $1 billion problem. Even if all the rappers in the world had put their money together for Katrina, it wasn't shit we could do. Nothing we could do. And then Black people, we put more pressure on our rappers and our entertainers, our football players and basketball players than we do on the motherfuckers who getting paid to do that kind of shit. But I realized I used to think that God was telling me to do that. God didn't tell me to do that shit. My ego told me to do that. It ain't my responsibility to save nobody but my ass. And if I have children, then you brought them in the world. You're a lot better at that than I am. I ain't quite.
You're muted, Enos.
Unmute.
He's muted.
Yeah. Whatever you agree with or disagree with on that, Tiger, what's just on you?
Well, there's things that I agree with and things that I disagree with, but I think most importantly, you know, if any group of people wishes to be homogenous and build their own businesses and hire based on you know, race, then they should be allowed to do so.
Got you. Okay. And then Dane, how about for yourself?
Well, I think that what he's touching on when he says, you know, we raised $1 million, but it was $1 billion problem. I think he's pointing on the touching on the fact that most of the American public are undereducated, and when it comes to finances and economics, they're severely undereducated. And when he talks about how, you know, Black people put so much pressure on their entertainers and athletes and that sort of stuff, I believe that he's touching on a big truth that I think I've mentioned on this podcast a good many times, and that is how so many Black parents today seem to celebrate and push their children towards athletics and music and not towards STEM fields or business or economics and that sort of stuff. And so, you know, he was talking about a superhero like Superman or something. The Black people do have superheroes in their communities. It's just that when it comes to the socio-political leanings of a lot of the heroes in their communities, if they're not an athlete or a musician, well, then they're discounted and they're, you know, called Uncle Tom and stuff like that. Men like Clarence Thomas and Thomas Sowell and that sort of stuff. Men who there's nothing wrong with catching a ball or tooting a horn or whatever, but it's men who took the more academic way, the more business way, the more long-term wealth establishment way. There are those people there are Black people like that in the West. They're plentiful. They're just not celebrated. So when it comes time and, oh, you need some help, if you're thinking that that's the heroes or the rappers and musicians and athletes, that's who you're going to go to carry that load. And typically entertainment is a self-focused, look at me, I'm on stage, it's celebrating me. Whereas the STEM field or the engineer or the doctor or whatever would be more of a I'm creating and producing something that's tangible other than entertainment, would have a different mindset in that person, probably be able to help more. But, you know, that's it. I could go on forever. Thank you.
Yeah. Wicked, how about yourself?
I mean, I would say it leads more to self instead of community. If you have that kind of mindset where you're looking for, you know, the fast money thing of something that's going to be more for yourself, kind of like Dane said, to where I think your mentality should be more towards community driven, you know, starting obviously with your family and what you could do first and your closest people, then from there reach out. But I don't think you should ever be something about that's fast money about yourself. Because I just think it's more than about self in overall, because you can never really do anything on your own.
All right, the power to Dusty.
I must confess, I wasn't really paying attention to that clip.
No problem. Yeah, get the next one. T Reason on you.
Like I said, I think it has to do with the industries that you're involved in. I think it has to do with what you're exposing yourself to, and that's going to help you make the right choices, make the right decisions. That's going to lead to the outcomes you're looking for.
Got you. Yeah, and for me, I try to take notes so I wouldn't forget. But he said his only responsibility is him, which contradicts what he had been saying before. He had been talking about you owe your community this, you got to do this, and now he's saying my only responsibility. And that's my issue with a lot of these characters that you see, these charlatans online, is just the fact that they don't have one message. They're just going to say whatever it takes to kick against the grain and to get people on their side for whatever movement that he's trying to do, whatever way he's trying to make money with the people. He's trying to get them on his side. He's going to say whatever it takes. It's not my responsibility. Then it's all y'all responsibility to take care of your communities. He's going to say whatever it takes. It's like Dave Chappelle said one of his stand-up special. He says, Pepsi or Coke tastes the same. Pepsi paid me last, so it tastes better. That's kind of the thing right there. And so that was one point to make and then he said putting pressure on the athletes and the actors and stuff like that. I think that reason why that happens, especially in the Black community, is because with athletes, you don't really see this in the white community nearly as much. But if you're appealing to people saying, hey, look, I'm your brother, you look like me, I look like you, I represent you, then yeah, I'm going to appeal to you more. Because you're not just, when I'm assuming when Uncle Tiger or Dane are watching Pink or whatever, the Roses, whatever Gangs and Roses, whatever group is out there, they're not going like,
thank you for not putting me in that.
Yeah, that person represents me, and so there's not the same type of appeal there, not the same type of like you representing me on the big stage, and so you got my best interest at heart. If you play that card, then yes, it's going to go both ways. They're going to appeal to you more now. So that's why I think that happens. And the third thing I was going to say is just talks about the content for his concert and stuff like that. I think a lot of that stuff, I'm sure he probably got paid for it, and then a lot of times with the content that they're even talking about on these concerts, it's not stuff that you want people to hear anyway. So they may raise money with it, but what is the messaging, especially David Banner specifically, the kind of messaging he was giving to the people just hurt us more than helped us anyway. So I'm glad he would do that to raise money, I guess, to some extent. But at the same time, it's like, that's not the kind of messaging we need people to be reinforced to the Black culture specifically. So real quick, I'm gonna read these comments real quick, then we'll get into the Greg Sanders says, that's all we have managed to accomplish with all of our meaningless virtue signaling here in Western civilization is to have empowered victimhood to the point that now it's become desirable. Witchy Bishy says, homes in predominantly white neighborhoods tend to be better maintained and more improvements are made. Okay, so I think everybody's said their piece now. Anybody, Powder, you want to say something? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to push back on maybe a little bit of an arbitrary issue, but you referenced to people of the same race being more identifiable because they look more like you. And I guess my thought on just that little thing is that I think that's culturally programmed to think that people of the same, like that's the identifying factor. Because I would point out that I think that if you put us all in a lineup, me and T Reason look a lot more alike than me and Dane.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you with that. The point that I was making, just to make sure it's clear, is that if I'm an artist, right? Let's say I'm a white artist, and I say, "Hey, I'm down with the two. I'm representing us on the big stage. Blah blah blah." I'm telling my audience, my congregants that I'm telling my fans that, hey, I'm representing you. It's about us, and I'm doing this for all of us. Then if I'm gonna say that to them, and that's how I'm making my money, that I'm representing you, that I'm us, I'm taking what we have on the big stage, I'm kicking it to these white people right here. I got money. I'm showing we can have money, we could do this, we could do that. If I'm appealing in that way to my audience, then I shouldn't be, surprised when they have more expectations out of me than they would just a normal artist. You see, you get what I'm saying?
That's a point.
That's the point.
It just sounds like a bunch of pandering to me.
I don't agree with what you said. I agree with what you said, Powder Dusty. I'm just saying that you can't. If you're going to appeal that, you're going to establish a rapport that way. It goes both ways. They're going to expect more out of you because you're saying that you're representing them.
One thing that will cause me to choose another company to do business with is when the company's marketing says Christian-owned business. Now, I love the Lord. I love going to church. I love my Christian people. But when they have to sell me on their service not by the quality of their service or their product, but hey, we're both Christians. You should support me as a Christian. To me, that's just a big red flag to say that.
It's
Shout out to
just
Speak
pandering.
Easy.
It's pandering to get your point across to attract a group of people at the end of the day.
I think it's more so a bonus than pandering. I think sometimes you might have two companies where you're like, okay, they both look good on paper, and then you got that one last little thing. Well, this one's Christian owned. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So
And that would be pandering towards them to kind of give yourself an up.
So I think when you have a business, you have to try to do everything you can to earn someone's business. So if you got one more notch in your belt, and it's a true notch in your belt, not just blatant pandering, if it's actually factual, and you do your research and find out this actually is a Christian-owned business, and they do donate and they are active in their community, you should support that kind of business. Not just based on that, just them putting that there. But I think a lot of times when you're dealing with a company, you're going to look at all the factors. You don't buy just for one reason. People buy for numerous reasons. They don't just have to have one reason. You know, if you check off 10 of their boxes, you're more likely to be that company they spend their money with than a company that's just taken from the community and is not active in the community at all. That's why I don't even like big corporations for real. I'd rather support local wherever I can.
Oh, yeah, you got a good point to the reason. I think Dane wants to respond to you.
Different people, they choose who to do business and where to spend their money at for all sorts of reasons. And the average American is dead broke, living week to week. All right. The financially intelligent person is looking for the best value for their product or service. Me personally, I don't care if you're a transgender lesbian with one foot missing. If you give the best product for the money, I'm hiring your transgender lesbian butt to hop on over there and do whatever it is you need to do, because my money is my physical labor, which comes from my body, stored into a form that I can use for trade. So that dollar bill is like a battery charged up with electricity for my body. So your service needs to be worth more than the work it costs me to earn that money. That's all I'm looking for. Well, we're all Christians. I don't care. I'm not going to buy a subpar product because you're Christians. It's guilt trip. The same thing happens when I hear people talk about, well, we need to buy local. I'm not buying local.
I know, Powder, Tiger, you have anything you want to say on this topic?
I need to respond to that.
Okay. Wicked, anything? Okay, Powder Dust, I see you raising your fingers up.
Dane, do you apply that same non-pandering standard to YouTubers like Speakeasy?
What do you mean?
It's this outside drama, dude. Are you bringing it? Really?
No, we're not doing this outside drama again. We already did this last week.
Okay, fine. The hall monitors got me.
Last week, right?
Hall monitors got me on
We went through this for like 45 minutes last week. We ain't doing this again this week.
I wasn't here. I just got
Justin,
here.
You were so based up until that point. God,
Yeah. I don't know.
You like Speakeasy too. Y'all buy the pandering. Go ahead.
Who said I like Speakeasy?
Your little sassy attitude tells me all I need to know.
This has nothing to do with the
real quick. Witchy Bishy, his experience as a realtor is less valid than biased Google propaganda. Question mark. Yeah. Tutty Bug, Dane, I'm in the South Mobile, Bellingrath area.
Bellingrath. It's a big it's an area close to me. I'm in Grand Bay, whoever that was.
Yeah, Miss Dusty, T Reason just twisted his words.
Elaborate on that.
What Dane said.
Elaborate on that.
Kind of hard to have a conversation like that.
What did I say? Elaborate.
Okay, next.
I'm sure she's not still watching. She jumps in and out.
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot that was said that I want to get into, but we got a lot more to cover.
I wanted to respond to what Dane said earlier.
Go ahead and respond, T Reason. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, Dusty called you ugly earlier.
Can you say what was said earlier and then respond to it?
Yeah, so he was saying that whenever he goes to buy something, the way that he goes about that is he wants to make sure the product is quality. He wants to know he's buying from a reputable business that can stand behind their product, and the focal point of what they're trying to sell you is what he came to buy. But the biggest flaw in what he said was he said me personally. So just because that's what you do personally, that doesn't mean you can speak for every single other person that want to do business with this company. Some people may specifically sought out Christian-based businesses. And in order for them to identify those businesses, you can't say so what just because it doesn't matter.
I can say whatever I want, man.
Okay, but that's an opinion. We're not talking about opinions right now. We try to live in a fact-based reality, and you over here with all these opinions with
I
your
didn't make
emotions
an
and your
argument that
feminine
people.
mindset. You're playing on your own feminine mindset right now. What I'm trying to do is speak for the other people who don't have a voice that can speak over you right now when you constantly got something to say, interrupting me while I'm trying to talk. So
It sounds like your feelings.
what I'm trying to tell you is other people may make a purchase based on another reason. And like I said, they look at numerous factors. They may have two competing companies, and the apples to apples, everything is the same. The pricing is the same. The quality is the same. The people they're in contact with, they like all of the people. And now they're like, who do I choose? And they see, oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, this is a Christian-based business. Oh, that's going to give them that last little notch. So while it might not be something you want to see, obviously there's a business need for it because they put it on their promotions. So you can't dictate whether their media is a success or not. Only they're going to be able to dictate that. And capitalism, which is something you support wholeheartedly, is going to dictate whether they should have that on there or not. Not your own personal example, because the world doesn't revolve around Burley Dane with the long beard. You know what I'm saying? Stop thinking it revolves around your little bubble, like your little.
Okay, T Reason, we got you. We got you, T Reason. I'm gonna read this comment, and I want to give Dane a chance to respond. You put comments up there, you know. So Greg Sanders says, "You guys lost me a way back. I'm wondering if either of you still have any clue what the other is talking about."
Dane certainly don't.
And then Raging Patriot says, "Drinking with your pinky out is highly suspect."
Who did that?
I'm not sure. I think all of us gotta do that sometimes. When you put that pinky, it's in the way.
Got the pinkies
in the way sometimes. But anyway, so
Nothing he said.
So Dane, real quickly, just for the help, I think for all of us, can you kind of state before you get into your breakdown? We're gonna go after you get done, but the next thing. But can you just state what exactly T Reason saying that you disagree with, and then why you disagree with it?
Well, I mean, his what he said didn't connect with the point of my argument at all.
Straw man.
So it's an absolute straw man. So am I disagreeing? Like he said that people are allowed to choose who they do business with based on their own criteria. Well, of course, I agree on that, but I didn't say they weren't. What I said was that if they're choosing to buy a product or hire someone based on being Christian or based on being the same race or the same nationality or whatever, if that's a factor they use on hiring, they're just stupid. But they're allowed to do it. I didn't say they weren't allowed to do it. Well, people use different criteria than you use. No kidding. I did not say it wasn't. So he's responding to an argument that he created himself. He's not responding to my argument, but it was fun listening to him, sort of.
You like hearing yourself talk, man. I literally outlined exactly what I was saying.
The power does speak.
You still weren't able to straw man what I said.
But yeah, I think we covered that one. We'll go to the next one, Shout out to Big Daddy Kent Dane.
Yeah, I need to get monetized so I can be rich like Vulcan and Dusty. I can start making money.
You know, I know that y'all had this in the questions, but I'm gonna jump a little bit. One of the reasons why I want to be in the high-end fashion is because I want little black boys to know that you can be a heterosexual, strong man and still be in fashion. Mm. It's okay for you to dress how you want to dress and express yourself. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very important, bro, because ain't nothing soft about you, bro.
Can I check you something real quick? I just want to be in high fashion, low fashion, just fashion. Fashion for me is a way of self-expression. And I think oftentimes people get excused because it's high fashion. Like to me, this whole outfit, thanks to Macy's, it was affordable, right? But I think we get caught into, oh, this was this brand, this was that brand. I went to Neiman's to get this one. I went to Nordstrom to get that. I went to Paris to get this. But it's all expression. I don't care how much you pay for them heels, baby. I don't care how much you pay for them shoes, my boy. I just wouldn't wear them. You feel me? And we get so caught into, I spent $1,700 on this bag or $17,000 on this bag. And it's like, but I wouldn't wear that. I wouldn't rock that.
But let me tell you why I do, though.
Okay.
The reason why I do is Malcolm said by any means necessary, right? It doesn't necessarily mean war. I want to be where my people's interest is. Like the real truth, I can say this on your show. Bro, I was never into Ferraris and jewelry and all of that kind of stuff, but I realize that our children are. So if I want their attention and I know that's where their attention is, I'm going to go to where my people's attention is as long as it doesn't compromise my manhood or my soul. Yeah. So I'm in high fashion because number one, for some reason, and this is really sad, man, bro, I didn't really get paid as a producer. And I've produced Quincy Jones, I produced Maroon 5, Chris Brown, like all of these different people, Wayne, Tip, it goes on and on and on. People didn't really pay me until I bought a Bentley. I mean, white cats can walk around looking like a troll, bro, and no shoes on and dusty and half addicted on meth and get paid $1 million a track. But for some reason, I have to wear my money on me. So what I learned is if God gives you information, if God illuminates you to know where our interest lies, if I can be a part of that and bring them to me, then the other fucking thing, if you're going to spend
My Dane catching strays.
Go ahead, T. Reese. You can start this one off. What you got?
Hey, David Banner was throwing strays at Dane, talking about troll looking people. But yeah, man, I agree with what he was saying. I'm big on meeting people where they at. You know what I'm saying? He want to get in tune with his community. He want to appeal to a certain audience. Obviously, you got to gravitate to where they at. That goes back to the last question with the marketing, appeal to people where they at. Some people want to see that. So we're going to capture those people too. We're not going to leave them by the wayside. We're going to make ourselves easily identifiable. If that's the metric you're looking for, we're going to make ourselves available to you. So that way we can gravitate to our tribe or our people or what we want to, our community. You know what I'm saying? We got to be able to reach out to those people and display ourselves in a way that they can resonate with. You know what I mean? I'm big on that.
All right, the Powder Dusty, it's on you.
Yeah, I just think that I'm still stuck on how crazy it is that we got this dude here wearing a Elmo shirt, and I looked a little closer. I think he's got a rip on the right side of his chest too. There's like a puncture hole or a cigarette burn or something. Like, I don't know. I agree with what T Reason said. You got to meet people where they're at, but like, man, what is this dude doing talking about fashion or any sort of thing? Who let him go on like that? And I'm a white guy wearing an FBA hat. And Dane Santa Claus dude, do this.
All right, Uncle Tiger, what you got?
If the question is, should men be fashionable? Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, and if it means that they're alienated by another people group, whatever. I mean, I think men should just be fashionable as to the best of their ability. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, or am I confusing what the question is about? Because
whatever you thought about what he said right there, I mean, he kind of shared his focus and his desires for the community, young men. He said initially was he wants young Black boys to understand that you can be into fashion and still be heterosexual. That was what we started out with.
Yeah, I would take race out of it and say young men should do their best to be fashionable because we should be reproducing. You want to be attractive to the opposite sex, right? I mean, that's right. Who cares about I mean, perhaps there's some fashionable things that I could disagree with, but generally speaking, I feel like that's just like a general statement, right? Like, what is there to agree or disagree on?
Got you. Okay. Yeah, Dane.
All right, let's see. I think that a lot of stuff that David Bannon's coming up with is solutions looking for a problem. I mean, I've never heard anyone going around telling young men, whether they're black, white, yellow, green, that dressing nice and grooming themselves well and that sort of stuff is somehow a feminine thing. I haven't seen that. I think he's just coming up with something to say. But what strikes me about David Bannon is it so much of what he's Banner, I don't care. I don't listen to the music and I don't follow sports. That's Cam Newton, by the way.
Age,
you can still say the name.
Anyway, I don't really care. Anyway, so what strikes me is so much of his argument comes from that perspective of expecting provisions and protection from someone else. So much of it he flips around to compare with, this is a perfect example, well, the white boys over here, just a white children, or however he worded it, blah, blah, blah. It's constantly comparing himself with someone that he seems to see as having some sort of influence over him, instead of just simply saying, I'm going to blaze a trail, and I'm blazing the trail, and everybody else be damned, I'm blazing the trail. That's masculinity, you know? So, I mean, that's what I just think is a bunch of crying, looking for something to cry about.
All right, Wicked.
All right. So, I mean, to me, this whole entire interview has been him talking out of two sides of his mouth, because he'll start off with a topic and then he'll go into something that has nothing to do with the topic. So it's kind of confusing, you know, for him to say like, oh, okay, well, men should be able to dress fine however they want. Yeah, that's okay. But at the end of the day, when he's going to be like, well, you know, I'm wearing a JCPenney t-shirt, but I don't think I should justify my morals. You know, I don't think I should go against my morals in order to be with somebody. But then he goes, well, I'm going to go pander to these people who were like, oh, I want Gucci and this, and materialistic. So if he's at one hand saying that I'm not materialist because I'm wearing a JCPenney t-shirt, but yet at the other hand saying that I'm going to go try to talk to these people because of this materialistic thing, isn't that going against your values, which you said you don't want to do at the beginning?
I think you clashed the two people. I think you clashed what David Banner was saying and also what the other guy was saying, what Cam Newton was saying. So you mixing the two. Because Cam was saying that he shopped at Penny's, and David Banner was saying that he buys the Ferraris.
But didn't he also say that he doesn't want to go against his morals?
He told us where he draws the line. He said he said where he draws the line.
Yeah, he draws the line at his morals. So if he's not interested in Ferraris and all this and that would be his moral basis. I'm not interested in these things. These are the rules that I follow, but yet I'm going to go cater to these people which go against what I believe. Isn't that not contradiction?
It is, but then he says why he does it though.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. So okay, so you're going to say that hold on. Okay, so if you're saying that it's a contradiction, then you're saying that, well, he says that the reason that he does it, so even though it's a contradiction, it's okay to contradict what you're saying?
Given if you have a valid reason why. I think he's
contradiction is so what you're saying is that contradiction is okay.
I think he's understanding. He's trying to level with us and give us a peek into how his brain works. He's going down his reasons why he has to do things, and he says morally, I don't need a Ferrari. Ferraris don't appeal to me.
I get that.
Hold on. Hold on, quick. I just want to state for the audience real quick what was said, because what David Banner mentioned was he said that he quoted Malcolm X saying by any means necessary, and he said, not talking about necessarily violence, but if this is the way to reach my people, if they need to see Ferraris, they need to see all that kind of stuff for me to be able to reach them, then that's what I'm willing to do. That was the point that he was making. I just want the audience to hear that point, so y'all can continue.
Right, and I get that point, but from my understanding, he also says that if I don't believe in this, I don't believe in this, and these are my morals, and I don't go against my morals, but yet you're going against what you don't believe in.
But so his moral pillars, he got moral pillars, okay?
Right. So it's okay to go against. So it's okay to contradict yourself.
Listen. You're trying to put it into a box from your comprehension. He's saying I have a greater purpose to reach my people. Okay, so look, I don't need a Ferrari. I have the money to buy a Ferrari, but I don't need one. But you know what? I do need to reach my people. So in order for me to bridge that gap, listen what I'm saying. Stop trying to counter what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. He's saying in order for me to build that bridge back to my community, just so that way I can get what I need, the platform that I need, I'm going to go get that Ferrari. Because I know once I got that Ferrari, my greater goal to reach my people, I'm going to be able to do that much easier. I can still do it without it, but it's going to be harder. So why wouldn't I make things easier for myself when I have the ability to? So it's kind of like a compromise.
Well, because that would go against the morals.
Okay,
that would go against your morals. That would be contradicting yourself.
Let me ask you this.
I don't find it okay to contradict yourself. I don't think it's okay to say I don't believe in this and then go ahead and do the things you do.
What if it's more of a paradox than a contradiction? What if it's something that just looks contradictory? Maybe he's weighing at the lesser of two evils. Maybe it's like, or he's just being pragmatic about it. because I don't think he's saying it's immoral for him to buy a Lamborghini.
This is not
or
one of his
Ferrari.
moral pillars that he doesn't
Yeah.
compromise.
He didn't really specify what moral he's talking about, but I don't think he would be saying that it's immoral for him to buy a Ferrari or anything like that.
But again, this is again why I brought to the beginning of my point is he's talking out of two sides of his mouth. He's saying one thing and then he's kind of going against what he's saying, and he's kind of just pandering to kind of get a general idea, but he's not having any solutions to his things. He's just saying, okay, this and that.
He's openly admitting to pandering. He's openly admitting to saying that I'm
Right.
doing
So that's okay. So that's okay.
If
So
he's openly
that's okay to
admitting
do that.
It's much different when it's covert. Overt is accepted. If he's saying
It doesn't. No. Okay. So hold on a second. So hold on. So if I tell you, hold on a second. Go back for a second. So you're going to tell me that if I say to you, you know what, I'm going to lie to you when I tell you something, it's okay for me to lie to you, even though I told you I'm lying to you.
That's not what he said.
No, that's what you said. You just said no, it is, because you just said he is knowingly pandering and still doing it and acting like it's okay to pander.
It does not compromise one of his moral pillars, is what I'm telling you. So
how if I say it's not okay to do this and then I go ahead and do that, how does that not go against what I'm saying?
Okay, so to try to give you some examples that you can understand, he's saying that I don't need the car, but I'm not against buying the car either. You see what I'm saying? So this is a gray area. You're debating a gray area for him that's not black and white. It's black and white for you, but it's a gray area for him. Him buying the car doesn't go against who he stands for as a person. He don't look at that as, oh, I shouldn't have done that. He doesn't have any regrets for buying the car. He's just saying that, he's trying to let people know how far he's willing to go to reach his people.
But again, I don't. My point is I don't find it okay to be pandering to somebody just to get your point across if you don't actually mean what you believe.
He does mean what he believes.
Okay, I definitely see what you're saying.
He's explaining to you why he's going about doing it. To get
what he's doing? No. He is justifying.
So real quickly, because I want to move on, but I just want to make sure we're clear on this. So Wicked, you're saying that there's two contradictory beliefs that he's simultaneously wanting to hold? If you don't mind, if that's the case, which two are you referring to?
Yeah, I would say that he's saying that, like, okay, well, you don't need these things to do this, and there are ways to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and do the things that you don't need to do in order to do the thing. Instead of actually doing the correct way to do it, I'm going to do the wrong way to do it.
And that was a lot. That was a mouthful for me. I think
sort of an ends justifying the means. Is that what you're saying? The ends justify the means, even though the means.
I guess you could say that. Correct. Yeah, I guess you could say that.
He's talking about some kind of immoral act. My understanding, maybe I missed part of the video, or because I don't remember the whole thing now at this point. But I thought he was just saying that I'm buying certain things, shiny things that people are going to want to look at, so that they'll hear what I'm saying when I'm wearing it or using it or whatever the case may be. I don't. Is that two different beliefs?
So I guess what you could say is, just because he's saying that, okay, there's a way to get to point B, but it might not be the best way to do it or the correct way to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and do that anyways, whether it goes against what I believe or not. So I believe that A is the correct way to do it and B is the wrong way to do it, but I'm going to do B because it's more beneficial.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I don't know if I heard him. Is there like a certain quote that you have where he said that something similar to that?
I can't give you a direct quote.
Or like just like a ballpark, like what
ballpark. I guess the way he said is like, okay, I think that I can do X without the car, but you know what? If I have the car, it'll help me do X. So I'm going to go ahead and get the car, because even though I know I don't need this and I can do it without it, I'm going to head and do it with it anyways to kind of give me the advantage and kind of go against what I believe.
But so what you just said right there, you wouldn't say there's any issue with that, would you?
It's kind of hard. I think if you could do it, yeah, I think if you could do it a way without doing something that would go against what you believe, you should do it that way.
I don't see how buying a car would be against your beliefs.
Yeah, that's the part that I think we're kind of struggling with there. It's just that, so if I believe that, okay, you know what, I don't need a car, I can do everything I need without a car, but I just go ahead and buy a car anyways because it's easier. I think you should just. Hold on, I want to finish what he's saying. I want to finish. Sorry.
I don't think you should always take the easy way to do things, because sometimes the easy way isn't always the better way.
Okay. Powder Dusty, you want to respond to that?
I mean, I just feel like he's conflating presentation with something that violates somebody's ethics or is cutting corners somehow, and I don't think that's true. Like buying a car, looking the part eases the communication. It's part of communication, right? The point of communication is to convey a thought, hopefully to some sort of an end, right? And if you're not presenting yourself in the way that makes communication most fluid, you're actually inhibiting yourself.
I think this is outrageous that we even have to explain this to a guy who doesn't think a contract has to be morally written. But I think
No. I never said a contract never had to be morally written.
Yeah, you did.
I just think you're
You
responsible
said a
for no.
contract is wrong.
I said to you,
So you know what I mean?
Hold on real quick. I just want to say this real quick. I think we've kind of covered this one pretty well. I'll just say this crazy example that I wanted to say that, we've already kind of covered it. But, if I say I'm going to, I'm starting a program for young people or whatever, and I'm going to center around basketball. And obviously kids in the elementary, middle school, to them, LeBron is the best thing since sliced bread. To me, it'd be Michael Jordan. I may use LeBron to reach the kids, even though if we have a personal conversation, I'm going to say, no, Jordan's better than LeBron. But I may use LeBron just to help accomplish whatever goal I'm trying to accomplish with these kids. And I think that's kind of what I'm taking David Banner to be saying.
Dane uses a conversion van to reach the kids.
No, not actually.
What did he use?
But I'm glad you brought me into the conversation. What I would like to know is he's talking about he has all these great ideas. He's not offering any actual logistical steps to take to reach any of that. He talked earlier about, we could get together by Ghana. That's that pie in the sky stuff. He's got no substantive steps to do to move in that direction. And when he talks about things like reaching the kids, he's talking about fashion and stuff, or like you just said, Vulcan, a basketball program, that sort of stuff. That sort of stuff, by and large, to one degree or another, is already in place. What I don't understand is why whatever his name is, or however y'all pronounce his name, and people that hold his ideas, why they're not talking about starting programs to steer young black children towards the building trades, pipe fitting, welding, machinist, electrician, why they're not trying to steer them towards engineering and finance and those sorts of things, why what they end up talking about steering them towards ultimately ends up being entertainment or consumerist, like fashion or buying a car or music or sports, that sort of stuff. I mean, even if they go through college as a star player and they get into the NFL or the NBA or whatever, they can blow a knee out, tear a shoulder, and then what are they going to do? And I know that some professional athletes actually have usable degrees, but it's those marketable still. You don't build wealth generationally by having a hit record, unless you're going to be like Michael Jackson or someone like that, a hit record or winning a championship ball game. You build it slowly.
Yeah. Okay.
Why don't he and people like him talk about steering the community in that direction?
For sure. And I didn't really give mine, but yeah, I mean, I get people love fashion. Fashion's great. A lot of money can be made from fashion. It's important to have your own unique way of, relating to the world with how you look and stuff like that. But I think it's a poor use of our time when it comes to the black community to focus on helping heterosexual kids that know they can do fashion. But that's in my opinion, because I'm not a fashion guy. I can see the creativity in there and see all good reasons people might say. All right, this is gonna be the last one, y'all, we have right here for the night.
Can I just say one last thing on that?
Go ahead, T Reason. Let me read these comments.
I think he was explaining his moral reason by doing it. And I think if you listen for that part, then you can understand why he's morally doing it, because he's literally explaining his moral reason as to why he does it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the book of I think he may be alluding to the feminine male fashion agenda that is being pushed specifically in the urban community. Yeah, I mean that may be the case. I wish he would have
spot on
more specifically so we can notice it.
Come on, by and large in this country for generations, I mean, let's be real. The black community has set the standard and the styles for fashion by and large for at least several generations. I mean, you can go all the way back like to the zoot suits and stuff like that came out like the jazz era and that sort of stuff.
So I'm not going to see you in an Elmo shirt next time, my day.
He can't pull that off, man. He can't pull that off.
Skew your love for that sport, when I'm just saying, hey, bro, if you just love throwing the best football that you possibly can throw, and why your accuracy is being affected by, so if you fall in love with those things, the compensation will come.
The only problem with that, though, bro, I'll add to that, is that has always been our problem, is that we love the things that we do so much that they end up getting us on the other end, right? One thing that I say about the NBA, when people start criticizing people who are jumping from team to team, I say, but owners trade us like slaves and cattle all day, and nobody ever criticized them for not being loyal to.
But it's a business, though.
Well, but no, see, when it comes to white people, hold on, watch this. When it comes to white people, we make excuses for them doing the same thing. Okay. Business is fucking personal. If you trade me and I live here, my family is here, you're disrupting my whole life. If me and you make a deal and you find a loophole in the contract and you fuck me over, that is very personal. See, white people have the ability to say that it's business and not personal because they never really cared about you in the first place. You were always a product to them. Yeah. They never looked at black people.
But I don't think that's a white man thing.
I do. Hold on, excuse me. Okay, Cam, let me ask you a question.
Go right ahead.
Since the draft is coming up, I hear a lot of people say that the NFL draft is very similar to the slave auction. How did you feel from all perspectives, but especially that perspective when you were drafted?
The visual could give off the same, but even knowing that to this day, I would do it all over again. Because at that specific point in time, that was my way of being able to change my family bloodline for the rest of my life.
Man, that was a lot right there.
Oh, so yeah. So Wicked, what you got?
I don't understand what the whole question is right now. So,
what do you think about what he said? He mentioned, he spoke for like 2 minutes. Anything that stood out to you? Anything you want to address?
I mean, I don't know if anything really stood out. I don't understand what the point of his question was. There's kind of like,
I could break it down. I could give you a question.
Hold on. Yeah. If you don't have anything Wicked, it's cool. We can go to the next person.
Yeah, I just kind of want to know what the question he's trying.
Big Daddy got too much going on.
What are you saying, Wicked?
I was saying I just don't really know what the question is. Like, yeah, like it's a trade. Isn't that what the NFL is about? Trading players and finding the best player and putting this person here. I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding what the basis of it is, but I think if you're finding players now, to find a loophole, like he said, to get rid of a player would definitely be 100% wrong. But if like a player's contract is up and you want to trade them for somebody else, that's just part of the rules of the game. So I don't see a problem with that. But the loophole part, I would definitely see an issue with.
All right, T, reason on you. I know you got some stuff to say on this.
Yeah. So he started with basically saying that from the business standpoint, it's perfectly okay for them to trade the player, but the player has to be loyal to the team. So that's the linchpin right there. And a lot of people don't understand from the player standpoint, they may have a business reason to go to another team, but because they build a community, fans, and all of this stuff, there's pressure on that player not to leave. You see what I'm saying? So players are starting to wise up to this and realizing that the organization has no loyalty to them. They'll trade them on a whim. I mean, look at Klay Thompson. So you see certain things happening where the player's supposed to stay to the end of their career, but if something happens to them, like they get injured or something like what happened with Damian Lillard or some of these other guys, they get traded. And they don't even know they're being traded. What happened to Luka? Luka Doncic didn't even know he was going.
Let me say this real quick. I'm gonna give it back to you, T-Reason. But I mean, he said it was like a racial component. Talks about it being like similar to slavery, and he also said white people, it's always personal, even though they say it's business.
Absolutely. I mean, we hear it on the pod. Obviously, these contracts hold a lot of weight. These players are signing big contracts. They're getting a lot of money on the front end, but don't realize what's coming along on the back end. They see the big number and they're like, where do I sign? But they don't realize, you have to hit certain metrics throughout the season. You see what I'm saying?
But how is it racial from your perspective? Like, because he said there's a racial component to it.
Well, because the people who own the organizations are going to be of the white complexion. So that I think what he really should be saying is not white. I think he should be saying elitist. I think that's where he's aiming at. Is he's aiming at the elites. He's aiming at the people who run the entire that own the team. He's not talking about the people on the field. He's talking about the people in the executive suite. He's talking about the people at the top that's benefiting off the backs of all the players on the field. And majority of the players on the field, a good percentage of them are black people. You see what I'm saying? But they don't have no vested ownership of the company. They don't have no say in the company. They can get traded virtually overnight, and they don't understand why. There's to them it might not be no rhyme or reason, but obviously the business side, they're saying it's business for them. So David Banner saying, well, the player should have it as a business too. The player should be like, you know what, I would be better off taking my talent over here because of XYZ reason. I can be closer to my family. I can make more money. I can get a better endorsement deal. I'll be in a bigger market. I got a chance of winning the championship. They're now starting to do that. And the community is pushing back and saying, well, we love you so much here. You have to be loyal to us. So the players have to deal with that, but the owners don't. The owners don't get the backlash the same way the players do of, oh, you just traded my favorite player. I'm no longer going to watch you guys. I'm no longer going to put butts in the seat. You see what I'm saying? So it's cool when the business does it, but it's a problem when the player does it. And that's what he's trying to get the players to realize, because a lot of these players are of color. That's what he's trying to say, especially in football. That's why he used the football example. And then it even gave more credit to what he was saying, because Cam said he would do it all over again, even knowing that he felt like it was mirror to slavery.
All right, Powder Dusty, what you got?
Okay, so I think this goes back to the contract. This is the same concept as the contracts, right? Nobody's making anybody play football. If you don't want to play football, or if you don't like these terms of the contract, you can either negotiate a better contract that doesn't have those terms, or you don't need to play football. When I was in construction, I hated wearing safety glasses, but guess what? You have to wear safety glasses in construction on a job site. It's just OSHA rules, right? This is just the world we live in. And I think that there are a few, now that this is wrapping up, let me push a few buttons. I think nothing shows black entitlement more than people comparing being an elite athlete paid millions of dollars to slavery. It's crazy. It has not. Those employment conditions have nothing to do with race at all, and these athletes are some of the most privileged, well-paid, elite people on earth. They're not slaves because this little clause in the contract, not even close. I yield.
All right, Dane.
I'm never sending P. Dusty the join link again, so you or Enos are gonna have to send it to him, because this is I feel dirty. See, when I get off stream,
I subscribed, man. Vulcan stuck with me.
I'm gonna have to take a shower. But I mean, I do agree with that, though. It's amazing that you got these two millionaires sitting there talking about how terrible their life is and how oppressed they are, and how being an athlete is comparable or the same as slavery. Banner's is that how you pronounce his name? David Banner. I'm looking at your screen right now, Vulcan, whatever. And it makes me think of the guy who Bruce Banner from the Incredible Hulk, remember, back in the 70s before y'all's time. But anyway, his entire argument that he goes from the beginning of this video to the end, he ends up looping back around and contradicting himself. You know, he'll say on the one hand, we need to build our own stuff and everything, businesses and stuff like that. But then he turns around and wants to talk about entertainment and athletics and that sort of stuff. Across the board, those white people that T-Reason ends up saying are racist because they have exploitative contracts, according to him, that they sign with black players. As far as I know, they sign those same contracts with white players. You know, but somehow or another, because it's a white team owner, I guess. I don't know who the team owners are, because I'm not into that kind of stuff. But because it's a white guy that exploits because it's a white guy that exploits the black guy, suddenly it's based on race and not just business of trying to make money. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. But as we teach people that the reason that you're on bottom is because this group of people is exploiting you, that's the longer it's going to give that mentality of, well, I'm under their thumb. Instead of telling them, get up, blaze your trail, lay out a plan for the next 50 years to build wealth to pass on to your children. Buy real estate, buy stocks, and then instead of selling the stocks, take out loans against the stock, and then the income you get from that loan is tax-free, and you still own the stock. Instead of teaching them finance like that, they teach them learn how to be the best running back, because maybe you'll be Cam Newton or whatever position he played. You know, you could be Cam Newton too. Well, somebody has to be LeBron. So some kid that's in elementary school now will be the next LeBron. But you'd be better off telling your kids to take their allowance, if you give them allowance, and go buy a lottery ticket. So, I mean, all of this drama that Banner's got where he's jumping up and he's all this performative stuff like that to enhance his message, all feminine thinking. It's all looking to be provided for in the failures of, because in feminism, it's the patriarchy that's keeping you down. From Banner's vision, it's the way white people treat him. The message needs to be a man, do the right thing, do your own due diligence, take responsibility for your own failures and for your own life, and get to work. That's what Big Daddy says.
You have anything you want to say on that point, T-Reason?
Nothing jumped out at me. You know, obviously Dane and I are gonna have we're gonna be different opposite ends of the spectrum on this one. But like I said, from the player standpoint, and I want to talk about what Powder Dusty said. You know, he said that athletes are the most privileged because they're millionaires and stuff like that. But money not everything sometimes. You know what I mean? Sometimes you do things for different reasons. You got a lot of players who will take a pay cut just for a shot at a championship. You know what I'm saying? You got players that'll make exceptions and draft other players to the team, and so they got more salary cap. So they're doing things for a moral reason, not just for the money. But then we look at some of these owners and we see them doing it just for the money, and we like, well, sometimes y'all got to do the same thing. And then, one thing I will say to Dane is he's saying it's business as usual. Come on, man, it's always politics involved. You know what I mean? If you know anything about the Cowboys, you know that whole franchise is politics. Come on now.
Hold on, Teresa. Let's
but that's not racism.
But yeah, hold on.
That's not racism. You're making the jump from politics to racism.
But you said it's business as usual, man.
Hold on. Yeah, well, Teresa, I want to give Powder Dusty a chance to address what you said, then Dane next. And then I know Wicked wants to get in there too.
First of all, there's no way that you can say the players are doing things for more than money, but the owners are not. Both of them are speculative. We're only talking about the business and the money aspect of it, right? Well, the contract, the deals of the contract, right? That's a job, that's employment. This is about money ultimately, even though every single person on earth has more motives than just money whenever they do anything. The other thing I would say is that black people are the majority of players in the NFL, right? In NBA, right? If those roles were reversed, I bet you, instead of hearing about how NFL players are basically slaves, we'd be hearing about how the NFL is racist because black people are underrepresented amongst the players.
Two things can be true at once, right? I mean, that doesn't change the perspective. That doesn't change the reality that we have right now, that majority of the football players are black players. But a lot of times what we're not realizing is that the concussion level that these players face, how they one game away from a career-ending injury. You see what I'm saying? They putting their life on the line on those fields. And a lot of us ain't never been in that situation.
Where did those goalposts go? I think they left the whole stadium.
No.
And you're infantilizing them.
I'm speaking to the whole thing that they're thinking about when they sign these contracts. I'm trying to tell you some of the things that's going on in their mind when they're looking at how they're being treated. You're not looking at that. You're just saying, oh, well, the owner owns the company, so they signed a contract so they can treat these players however they want to treat them, whether it makes sense for the player or not. We don't have to look out for the best interest of our players. We look out for the best interest of the name on the jersey on the front, not the name on the back. You see what I'm saying?
Business.
Yeah.
Business.
Yeah, but
I don't know why you keep infantilizing people who are employees, right? You're infantilizing all these football players, saying that they're.
Let him finish his point. Let him finish.
I mean, how condescending can you be towards people who engage in a contract? These people have spent their whole lives working and training to get to play in the NFL. You think they went through all that stuff without understanding the basic terms of an NFL contract when they were in middle school?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They got a one-track mind. Get on that field and move that football. They don't even know how to
I don't
handle
know.
dating in most cases. They don't even know how to handle marriage in most cases. They're
Well-
not. They're ill-equipped. They have a child mind when it comes to some of the things you're well versed on because you have a different type of mindset.
Because
that
I'm
you-
old.
No,
'Cause I'm old.
it's not. That's one reason, but that's not the main reason.
I mean, I think you just named a lot of things though that we all have to learn through trial and error, right? Like Dane pointed out so graciously earlier.
absolutely.
I'm not on my first marriage, right? Like I had to try a bad one to get a good one, right? Some things you just have to learn through
But don't you
experience.
wish you knew
You
what
mean
knew
there's
now?
two women that would sleep with you, Dusty?
With enough chloroform.
Okay, Rick Ross.
So,
Okay.
so real quickly, Wicked, you have something you wanted to say?
I mean, there's a few things that I want to get at here. The first thing would be that how is this different from any other job where an employer has any right to fire you for whatever reason that they want to? That doesn't apply to the NFL specifically. Listen, in the state of Florida where I live, it's a right to work state, which is like many other work states. If you're wearing a shirt I don't like, I could fire you if I wanted to. Not saying that it's right, but that's just the way the laws are worked, and that's just how every job mostly is. So if any job can fire you for whatever you want, the job of the owner of the business is to put the business first. The job of the employee is to put the business first because it is what provides them their income. So their benefit would be to put the business first and actually be loyal to the business because it's what's giving them the money. Now, the business owner is not loyal to the employee. They are loyal to the business because that is what comes first. Every business, the goal of the business comes first before the feelings of any employee. Now, should it be like that? No. Is it like that? Yes. But being that that's the way it is, it doesn't really matter. Now, you could be loyal to a company and get screwed over. You could be not loyal to a company and be there forever. It doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, a business has the right to choose whatever it thinks it is better for the business. Whether you like it or not is irrelevant.
That if they choose to do something, that they can't be sued or held liable for what they do. That doesn't mean that they're excluded from that.
I mean, that depends. That all depends. What are you need to be more specific. You're being too vague. You're being too vague. Be more specific.
You're the one who's
How am I being vague?
Let me tell you. You said they can fire you for any reason. And
yeah, that's called a right to work state.
And what I'm telling you is some of those reasons can get them sued and get them in court.
Not in a right to work state.
Yes, even in a right
it's an at-will state.
Yeah,
no,
it's not. You are using the wrong term,
at
Wicked, but same thing.
At will, right to work is the same thing. It's the same thing.
What you fire them for?
No, you can't. At will means you can.
A right to work state is a state where you can't be legally compelled to join a labor union. They're cousins to one another. But what Dusty is saying is correct, unusually so. It's a at will state.
At will state. Okay. Yes. You're correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty similar. That's why I say it almost the same.
And so I will say this: even in many of those different kind of situations, people can still be sued. That's why if you own a business or anything like that, your HR person is going to tell you to document everything, and because they don't want to get sued, you can still get sued in those situations, and it does happen. So if you have somebody who's counseling,
but that depends on the level of what you're being fired for. But in most cases, a big majority of the cases, they have any right that they want to. Now, determining on the factor, but in the majority, they could just fire you for whatever reason that they wanted to. The exception doesn't make the rule.
Dane, you have something you want to add to it?
No, I'm just I'm listening to Wicked. I could come up with all sorts of things that I could add to it, but I think Dusty and Wicked have sufficiently covered it. But I would like to say this to T Reason and people who have the mindset and agree with what T Reason is saying. There's a book that was written centuries ago called The Prince. It was written by Niccolo Machiavelli. There's a term that we get for someone who's an extreme, sort of a vicious, brutal person. We say that that's a Machiavellian. That could be applied in some instances to even Mr. Trump. Niccolo Machiavelli. And this book was the handbook for tyrants for centuries. And it has things in it that says things like keep your friends close. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. When I was selling new cars back in the 90s, my sales manager told me, you have to screw your friends and family because your enemies won't let you. See, and we can argue whether or not it should be like that or not. That's the reality, okay? So, we need to really get away from, especially all 6 of us being males, away from this idea of we should all play nice and make sure everyone gets an equal piece of the pie. We're able to do that because we live in the West and we have all this technology to keep us fed and housed and medicine and everything else. The fact of the matter is, if this economy eventually crashes, we're going to be out there trying to dig stuff out of the ground to eat, and it's going to be a kill or be killed sort of a situation.
Like that's what you want to see.
That's not what I want to see. That's reality, man. That's history. Do you really think the United States is going to be here for millennia and forever? No. You only have to go back a few generations and people could catch some little disease or infection and they died. There was not the supply chain we have. Within the supply chain that we have in this country right now, we're able to have all these complaints and all these ideas and stuff and talk about how, well, business shouldn't be like that. Business being like that is what has given us all of these comforts of fresh water coming to our homes and electricity and roofs that don't leak and
sorry,
that
check real quick, Dame. So y'all, this is a good show. We're gonna do our closeout. Everybody gets a minute to close out on it, and so I got my timer right here. So we're gonna start it off with you, Wicked. You got a minute to close it out. Well, sorry, hold on. Do that. We got comments, Enos? Okay, Angry Casper. This is the biggest issue with panels and panelists. Sometimes you just do not have enough information to make an educated take. So no one we got, Enos? Okay, all right. We got Wicked. You got a minute. Close out. Anything you want? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think we were good. I think there was
sorry, hold on real quick. We gotta finish the comments. I thought we were done. I wish I had more respiratory protection though, with all the time I spent wallowing in concrete and silica dust more than I did. Years later, now I find myself struggling to breathe sometimes. Raging Patriot. Here's for a new gas station lighter. No smokes. Enos Quest. The powder, Dusty. What made you buy a FBA hat?
I consider myself the first white foundational Black American.
There we go.
And thank you. I don't know what to say about that.
I don't know. Some of your takes wasn't taken enough, man.
Hold on. Before we get into that right there, we're gonna start it off a minute or less. Wicked. You starting off. Anything you want to say about the show in general? Anything you want to say in the last minute? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was a good show. I think we were able to touch base on a little more things that we went over last show. I do think there was quite a little bit of speculating from T Reason without any actual things to back up besides the way he felt about something. He couldn't really bring a point. I was very surprised to see Dane and P. Dusty get along because I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. So I don't even know if the show is real now. But overall, I think it was a good show. I think we were really able to get a little bit more in depth on some of the other conversations. I think overall, we kind of all agreed on some of the points, had a few disagreements, but overall, I think we kind of came to the same conclusion on a few things.
Cool. All right. The Powder Dusty, what you got?
Hey, thank you for having me up, and thank you, Dane, for inviting me. This has been fun. It was your structure format provides a little bit of a challenge sometimes for my ADHD brain, but I feel like I stuck with it pretty good. It was a good conversation, guys. Salute to the panel. Salute to the chats. Everybody on my side, subscribe to Vulcan. He hosted this. Subscribe to Dane. He's the one who got me up here. And if you guys got T Reason and Wicked, if you guys got channels, please put the link in the back so I could subscribe to them as well. If you're on my side, hang around. After I drop here, I'm going to go live and I'll redirect you over into that live.
Stop blaming me for you.
You're responsible for me.
I would agree with that.
All right, Dane, what you got?
I have a lot of guilt now that he said all of that. I have a lot of guilt, but I'll get over
it. You were about to talk mad crap.
No, not really. Credit where credit is due. I'm just waiting for you to earn credit. Anyway, so this is my thing. touching on what T. Reason said, because the white team owners and the black players, that's a basic model. What Brennan, whatever his name is, he was saying, everything seemed to be wrapped back around to because black people have been mistreated, so we need to do this, that, and the third. Here's what needs to happen, okay? First of all, we need to stop with this. Well, this hurts people's feelings, or this makes people feel bad, or this is how people feel, or whatever. If the community really wants to move up, you need to start subscribing to some of the stuff that Machiavelli taught in The Prince. We need, people in general, but this is black and white, needs to start focusing on having that intact home. We need to restore the patriarchy. We need to get men back in the home, standing there, providing and protecting and passing on a legacy and building it up. Moving young people towards the building trades or moving them into STEM fields and academia so they have marketable skills to sell that's not hanging on whether or not an audience comes in to watch your game or buy your record or see your concert. It gives a lot more power. Mr. Reason up here said, well, money ain't everything. Oh, yes, it is, because power comes from that dollar bill. That bull crap of knowledge is power. No, knowledge ain't power. You can know a whole bunch of stuff and still be living homeless and still be run over.
Are you next, T. Reason?
Money. You have to make money.
All right. It's on you now, T. Reason.
Hey, it was a good pod, man. Any day I get to beat up on Dane and the little daddy pod, man, I'm all for that. You know what I'm saying? And now I got another little clown peon powder dusty. I got two of them. I get to bump their heads together. I'm loving this. I didn't even have to roll up my sleeves tonight. You know what I'm saying? This was too easy, man. I will say this: Wicked is improving tremendously. I gotta watch him. You know what I'm saying? He's not quite there yet, but he's getting close. But right now, I think everybody brought some insight to the conversation. Everybody contributed in some way, shape, or form. But money is not everything. God, faith, what you believe in, family, that's going to always trump money. And your life is going to trump money, because I promise you, if I paid you $8 million right now and I gave you $8 million, but you don't get to wake up tomorrow, you're not touching that $8 million. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times you got to really think about what you're saying, because you might think you know what you're saying, but you really don't. It's always more to it. And I think that's what this pod does. Is it shows you really got to think things through, think critically, be sound, be logical, live in reality, not in your fairy tale land like Mr. Beach Ball Head over here or FBA over here, because I think a lot of his takes counter his beliefs. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to get them there. I thank y'all for having me on the Vulcan pod. I can always be an asset to you guys. You know what I'm saying? Anytime I get to duke it out with the Little Daddy pod, call me up, man. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah, shout out to y'all, man. It's a great pod. I'm not gonna hold y'all too long. Definitely check out the channel. We got a lot of different topics on it. We covered things from, the colonizers versus the Native Americans on Thanksgiving. We've covered all kind of different topics on here. We cover the 4 R's basically: rap, religion, race, and relationships. Now, relationships could be romantic, it could be business, all kinds of different things. So we try to have a very diverse palette as far as what we like to discuss. And we have all different types of perspectives and viewpoints on the show. And let's have it out. But we wanted to keep it to where it's not too crazy, where people can hear each other and really formulate a good argument and a counter argument so that everybody can follow it. But other than that, man, we like to have fun on this panel. So thanks to Powder Dusty, T. Reason, Wicked Dreams, and Dane, the Big Daddy Pod. We thank all of y'all for doing it, man. And Vulcan Soapbox, we out.